Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
Friday!
Yeah! Yes.
Let's get it. We made it.
We're
made
here.
it to Friday.
By the way, something we haven't followed up on that I just thought about.
Yeah.
Mikey told us the story, I think, 2 weeks ago about his noisy neighbor waking him up every morning. We've never heard a follow-up on that.
Fun fact, it literally has not happened since that morning.
He watches.
He may be and I still have not met him. I haven't had to knock
So
on
we
the
don't
door
even know
yet.
it's a he yet.
No, I do. So I've seen him.
Oh.
It is
Or
definitely a guy.
Did you say what's up? When you saw
No,
him?
I saw him. I was watching TV, and he was on his balcony. So I
Okay.
saw him through the window.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go out there. And he was with a friend.
Do
so.
you think that you pounding on the wall sort of drove home the point that, okay?
Well, I did it a couple times, and it still happened. But literally after the morning we discussed it,
Done.
it has not happened since.
Good neighbor.
He honestly, God, he may watch.
I think he watches it.
He may watch.
Can you imagine if he's sitting there eating his bagel and you're talking about this, and the guy's like,
Is that me?
That's
that's my neighbor.
that's him.
It
could be.
It really
Had
could.
he seen you at that point?
So
as far as you know?
No, I don't think he's seen me, but he was with his friend on the balcony, and from my couch,
You could see him.
you could see out. So I
Yeah.
saw him, and he was drinking a beer with his buddy. I was gonna go out and be like, "Hey man, what's up? I'm McNuggets. Nice to
should've.
meet you."
I'm McNuggets.
Yeah.
Like,
Go with Mikey on the first interview.
Yeah,
You
I'm-
introduce yourself as McNuggets now to
no,
strangers?
no.
Only if it's in UCSS contact.
It's happened in the gym a few times where half
Yeah.
the people in the gym know who I am as Mike, and half the people don't know who I am. And of the people who know me as Mike,
Yeah.
there's a fraction that know what I do.
And they know you as
sometimes be like,
McNuggets.
I was asked today, I was like, "Hey, you're McNuggets, right?" And I'm lifting my buddy Corey, and Corey's like, "McNuggets?"
Who's
You know,
that?
why, that's
is-
your,
and I'm like-
I've known you all this time, and I didn't know that
I'm
was
like,
your name.
"Yeah, it's kind of a long
So
story."
you have a
anybody-
friend here that doesn't know what you do?
I don't know.
Don't you have when you become friends with somebody? Don't you discuss your job?
I don't
Not
know
always.
what most of my
No.
gym friends do for a living. Like, these are people I've met through the gym. So
Yeah, but
it's-
most people have boring jobs, so who cares what they do for a living? You don't have a boring job.
Yeah, but a lot of times if you like, I don't know how you guys are, but I always downplay it. Where do you do?
every
I work in
every
TV.
dating profile I've ever had, I just say I'm a video editor.
Well,
That's
wait a
smart.
second.
That's smart.
We're not talking about when you meet somebody for the first time.
Yeah.
He said it's a friend.
Well,
When you
yeah.
have a
So
friend,
you met him at
know
the
what
gym,
they
and now
do.
he's kind of a workout buddy, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
And
I
like
can see how that.
So does
Yeah.
he get official friend status,
Yeah, but like,
or just workout buddy? That's a different story.
You don't want to be that dude. You don't want to be like, yo.
No,
so
you don't. You don't.
This is what I do.
Especially like volunteering that. If they drag it
no,
out of you, that's
no.
one thing. Last year, we had a new teammate that came from Akron. No. And
for your baseball team?
Yeah.
Or upstairs?
Baseball team.
Yeah.
And about halfway through the season, he's sitting next to me in the dugout. And we're hitting. And he goes, "What do you do for a living?" And I said, I work in television. And he goes, "Bro, I've known you for 3 months, and I'm just now realizing you used to work on ESPN."
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's the way I like it. If I can slide under the
Yeah, but
radar
again,
like that, that's
a
awesome.
different story because it wasn't like you guys had been friends.
We've
You're
been
just
teammates for 3 months.
I don't know. When I meet somebody for the first time, they almost always ask me what I do, don't they? When you meet somebody?
No.
I think it depends where.
I never walk
It
up-
depends where you.
That's
meet
like
them.
layer 2 or 3 in the question.
I mean, I never walk up to anybody and go, "Hi, I'm Adam. I'm on the radio.
Of
now I'm on
course
TV."
not. At least we
But
hope
like
not.
when I meet somebody new, usually
Now,
they ask
if
what I do.
I, as a rule, will avoid the question, "So what do you do?"
Yeah.
Where in my old life, I didn't.
I have a
but I
story-
do now
well, do you
because
go-
that always precipitates the follow. Well, what do you
Well,
do?
I think the problem with that question is usually the person I'm talking to has a boring job and I'm not that interested.
I have a story for this, but G, you go first.
Well, no.
Yeah.
Nigga, like so.
How do you know they have a boring job unless you
How
ask?
many people have you met in your life outside of TV? Or
A lot.
Jay's done
had
a lot, met a
exciting
lot of
jobs?
people.
Well, no, I've met a lot of people that have jobs that I'm genuinely interested in.
All right. Well, not me. You're meeting more exciting people than I am.
Say in corporate America, like so when I was working, like I was still doing shows.
Yeah.
But I was still I was a manager over like 50 people. So
Did they
like-
know you at work as G. Bush or Garrett?
Well, they called me G. Bush there too.
Oh, okay.
But I've made it a point that I never really talked about it. And then about a year went past, and people used to come up to me and be like, "Hold on,
Yeah. They figured it out.
you do the barbershop, don't you?" Mm-hmm. And then they would be mad
That you didn't tell me.
that you didn't tell them. You'd be like, I'm like, but this is a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
Like this what we do here has nothing to do with the radio, and I don't want to get my people to get too comfortable.
No, that's a good. I think that's a good plan.
I think I've told you guys this story. I haven't told it on air. I'll tell it. But when I first became an on-air reporter in Tennessee, I was 24, and I was so excited because I was like, yes, I'm on air. This is the key to being famous. And in Tennessee, you could be like a Z-list celebrity in real life, like a Z-, and you're an A+ celebrity.
First assignment, by the way, was to go to a Klan rally.
I wasn't that kind of part of Tennessee, I'll be honest. It was right in the Virginia-Tennessee border.
Your first job on air was
in Bristol.
about an hour and a half from my first job on air.
And Bristol's a lot more civilized than Harlan, Kentucky is.
No, Hazard,
Kentucky,
Yeah,
excuse
Hazard.
me, way more civilized.
But I will say, in defense of the stereotyping, like I lived there 3 years. I didn't meet anybody that was in the Klan.
Yeah, they're just a little redneck backwoods. And I still got a lot of friends down there.
Some of the friendliest people I've ever lived around.
I went back this summer. I'm going to go back next. I still got friends down there.
Awesome.
So I put on all my dating profiles, TV reporter, blew it up. And down in Tennessee, back in 2016, Facebook was huge.
Yeah.
And it still is down there. Like Facebook in Texas, no traction. Facebook here, I have no idea. I don't work with KYC. But down there, the Facebook page was massive. So I took a girl out on a date, met her on Bumble or Tinder, whatever it was. It was boring. And I just never answered it again. Nothing happened. We didn't do anything. Never answered. I just ghosted her.
Right.
My bad. I shouldn't have ghosted you. I apologize.
I don't understand
She
why
wrote on her-
ghosting. I don't understand why ghosting is
Let me
bad.
finish this. Though.
I think you should at least
Classless.
It is
Yeah,
classless.
I think it's
My
classless
bad.
too.
She wrote on our station Facebook page the next morning, or like 3 days later, like Mike Lucas was a giant D-bag. He was an asshole. Like he should not be on air. He's a bad representation of your station. So bad to the point I got so many comments. My station manager called me in and was like, "Mike, what happened?" And I was like, "Look, she's texted me 7 times since Saturday. I just haven't answered her."
Why wouldn't you just answer her?
I know she was gonna write on the Facebook wall.
Well, that doesn't matter. Like it's just.
I was
human
stupid. I was
decency.
23, 24. Like
You
I was
shared-
stupid. Yeah.
I know, but you shared an hour or two with the person. Even if this is the younger generation, and you're kind of in that right now.
Oh no,
I
I'm
said
all the
my
way
bad.
in it.
Because you're saying
all the way in it.
what's wrong
I'm all
with
the way
ghosting?
in it.
What's wrong with ghosting?
Right.
Is it's just doesn't measure up to the basic minimum requirements of being a human
Yes,
being.
and you are right.
It doesn't.
You're right.
By the way,
Hold on. I argue here.
Yeah.
I argue here. The burden of ghosting is higher on a man's part than a woman's part.
I don't think so.
A woman that is not interested in you, she won't tell you,
She should.
I'm not interested
Well,
in you.
she should. It's
both,
bad on her
both
too.
parties. First of all, ghosting has always happened. It's probably more prevalent now.
It is.
But like we've all been blown off by people in our lives, I'm sure.
You're supposed to
And
hate
it's
that.
I
messed
don't
up.
think being blown off is ghosting. Ghosting is there's just nothing.
Well,
But
sure.
I
I
barely.
work with someone upstairs who, I'm not going to name names, but this person has come to me on a number of occasions and asked me not to explain what's wrong with my gender, but literally said, why would someone do that? And I felt so bad for this person because this person is kind, sweet, attractive, everything.
Yeah.
And I don't know why anyone would do that to her or to anyone else.
I do
And
feel
it-
like your generation is doing this a lot more.
no question.
It's definitely more prevalent in my generation, but that is now why, long story wrap it up, I usually don't just randomly offer what I do to people because
I
it
think
can
that's
somehow
always a
come
wise
back.
move.
Well, and the reason it's more prevalent now is because there's like when you and I were dating as younger people, you met people in person.
You did. Yeah.
You didn't meet somebody anonymously.
And
right.
this was a girl I met online, had talked
Yeah.
to for 2 days, we went out.
But
I didn't-
what gets me is, like, you went out of your way
Yeah.
to avoid responding to not one, not two, not three, I'm
couple.
sounding like LeBron,
Couple.
but 7 text messages.
Yeah.
They came
Yeah.
your way. You took the time to read it, and then you put your phone down. At 1, okay, maybe. I'll get back to her later. But at 6, like, it just takes a second, G. Bush.
Yeah.
You know what?
But if you say like, hey, had fun Saturday, but I don't see this going anywhere, then it turns to the whole conversation.
No,
then
it
you have
doesn't
to-
have to.
Yes,
Well,
it
then it's
does.
on her.
But then I can ghost her after that. You're
But you
saying.
know what, Mike? Then it's on her. If you say, "Hey, Lisa,
Adam's right.
I'm really sorry. I just don't, I don't want to waste your time. I don't see a future. Nice to meet you. Good luck. If she pesters you after that, then
it's
you
on
did
her.
nothing wrong.
He's
Okay,
right.
that's fair.
Bull is
Fair.
absolutely right.
I will say this:
Fair.
I'm a firm believer in common sense.
Yeah.
If I go on a date with you and I text a girl back and she don't answer once, I'm not texting her ever again.
You don't
That's
need
fine.
to. You don't need to.
That's right.
Ever.
That's fine.
And,
but
and you're well within your
I
right
just think
of doing that.
It used to drive me crazy when I would go on a date when I was younger, and I dropped the girl off. She said she had a good time, blah blah blah. And then I call her nothing, right? Like, just tell me. Just be honest.
That's it.
I may be sad at the moment, but at least you've been honest, and I can move on.
You've made it a point a couple times on this show,
Yeah.
and I've always appreciated when you've done it, to say, look, differences aside, color aside, we all have one thing in common, and this is the only thing we all have in common. We're all human.
Yeah.
Like, everybody
Yeah.
wants to delineate between race and sex and sexual identification and all of this nonsense that divides. It puts us in classes. And you know what that does? It separates us. But the one thing we all have in common, every human on this planet, we're all part of the same race.
Mikey McNuggets
right.
knows this one thing, and I'm just going to give it to
Yeah.
you. This is brilliant. Mikey knows in this generation, it's different from your generation, right?
Yeah.
In this generation, you can't show too much. He has to act like
Yeah, I
he
gotta
is
act
not
like I
interested.
don't care. That's true.
If he acts too over the top,
Well,
oh, no,
ignoring 7 texts
Well,
is
I
over
mean,
the top.
but that is over the top.
See,
Ghosting,
I
but
don't,
it's
I don't
different.
believe in any of that, because I think if a girl or a guy, whatever, but in your case, if a girl wants you to behave that way for you to be with her, then you shouldn't want to be with her. You should want to find a girl that wants you to be interested. And
she doesn't have to drag you into the relationship.
If the girl wants to play games, or if to the girls out there, if the guy wants to play games, then get rid of him and find out somebody who won't.
By
play
the way,
games.
her move was classless too.
Oh, yeah,
She
yeah,
took
yeah.
Yes.
a
Oh.
private relationship public,
Yeah.
and that is reprehensible.
Right.
Especially when I don't think your actions warranted hers.
No.
Now,
No.
if she wanted, she could have sent back a text. Thanks for the reply. You're a perfect gentleman. I'm sure you'll find someone who suits all of your
And that-
needs
that-
down
that
the
would've-
road.
that would've cut deep.
That would
That
have been the
would've cut deep.
dagger.
Right.
But instead, she
went
took
too
it
far.
public. Did
Way
you get
too
in
far.
trouble?
No, he called. He's like, just
Dude.
try to be a little smarter.
Yeah.
But he was like, I showed him
Let
the
me ask you this.
text.
Did it change the way you behaved in the future?
I don't think I've just
Are you
straight
still
up.
have you ghosted anybody? in
I
Cleveland?
was no, I haven't ghosted anyone. in
Good.
Cleveland.
Good on you.
I do have a different story though, real quick, because I know we got Chris Rose in a few minutes.
Yeah, and I want
And we'll do
Bulls
both.
Bet is a great
but
story.
this is really funny. So I play basketball on Thursday nights, and last night 2 Cavs coaches came and played with us.
Really
Yeah, Josh, who's one of their analytics coach,
nice.
and their big man development coach Braxton, who's 7 feet tall.
Wow, that's awesome.
I haven't played with the 7-footer in a long time.
Yeah.
And I was not on Braxton's team, and they ran a pick and roll, and I slid over to help side defense just naturally, and was about to take a charge on a 7-footer. and
then you made a business decision.
well, I made a bit, and I bailed, and
Was
Braxton.
he at least like rail thin 7
no,
footer or no?
big guy, big dude.
Yeah.
And he saw me take a charge, looked down at me, and just started laughing and dribbled the ball off his foot. And for like 3 possessions up and down the court, he was like, "You dumbass! Like you really gonna try taking a charge?" And I was like, "Well, instinct kicked in. Like I gotta help defense.
Well,
I
good
rolled
for you,
over,
then.
and I bailed so fast, and he dribbled. It was hysterical.
You should have taken the charge.
And if
It'd
I
be an
take a
epic
charge,
story.
I'd be in the hospital right now. I would not be sitting in
Any
a
chance
chair.
we get either one as guests down the road?
It's the first time I've met them. They are both now aware of the show. As
Good.
in, hey, what
Yeah.
do you do? Well,
Right. See?
that conversation came up, and I
See?
didn't tell
Then you
them.
gotta-
So they're aware of
Yeah.
the show. They had a good time. He will tell the story of him dribbling the ball off the foot.
We
trying
got to
take
have
a
them on.
charge.
I would love to have the analytics guy on.
Josh was really. He played football in college and he coached at Amherst when I was at Emerson, and we beat them.
Oh,
hate
nice.
that
And he was like, "I knew you kind of looked familiar."
That's funny.
And I was like, "Yeah, I played 3 seconds and got a foul, and they immediately took me out." He's like, "Okay, then you're not who I thought you were."
Yeah, right. You're not nice like
But we
that.
beat them when they were number of the country. We beat them. He was on the staff, and that was the first time they're gonna come back next Thursday. So
Wow.
hopefully we'll foster that relationship
And bring 'em in.
We'll bring him in, yeah.
Okay,
So-
Chris is on the horn, so we want to
Yeah.
hurry here.
Yeah.
First of all,
Unbelievable.
Do you have any diet update? You want to talk about that, or do you want to skip that until
no,
Monday?
all good. We'll get to that Monday.
Still, everything feels
Everything's
good? You look
All
great.
good. Thank you.
Bulls
Thank
bet.
you.
Read
We got to
first.
get to my bet here.
Yeah, we
Let's
gotta
get
do
to
the
of
bet.
day.
Hey, Ohio Bet Rivers online sportsbook is the place to be for every single game. Now is the perfect time to join Bet Rivers Sportsbook. When you use your deposit code SPORTS, you'll receive a second chance bet up to $500. Get in on all the action with weekly specials on your favorite sports like basketball and hockey to help you win big. Check out BetRivers.com or download the BetRivers app today for the latest lines, odds, and boosts.
All right, and my Bet Rivers podcast starts on Monday. The bullpen returns with Adam the Bull Monday. We'll have it for you.
How we subscribe to that, man?
I'll let you know on Monday. I should have that answer right now.
Just search Adam the Bull, right?
Just search for. I'll tweet it out the link over the weekend. Be nice if we had that answer already. But all right. So first of all, let's get back. 2 days ago, I had a game that I had no business winning.
Yep.
And I won with the Cavs covering, which they should have never covered against Boston. Yesterday, Rutgers has a lead at halftime. They're up late in the game. I'm like, all right, they're going to take care of business. I thought they'd blow out Minnesota at the end of the game. And that goes the opposite way, and Minnesota wins at the buzzer. So
Unreal. Have you ever heard of Betules?
No.
It is the Greek god of gambling.
There you go.
I'm making that up.
Yeah.
But the gods giveth, and you won a
taketh
game
away.
the day
Gods
before
take.
you never should have won.
No.
And yesterday, by the way, did you get the DM from my son, Corey?
I did. Yes.
So he
was excited that
he
I picked him.
FaceTimed me. He FaceTimed me last night, and he said, "Yeah, Dad, you bet Bulls bet of the day. He's going with my boys.
We were very confident. We were exchanging DMs, and we were very
They
confident
were
about
up
the
10.
victory.
He thought it was in the bag.
Over. I thought it was
He had
over.
just got back from practice, so he
Yeah.
jumped in the shower.
Yeah.
He came out, and it was a 1-point game. He's like, what the hell happened?
Oh, my God. So
And the last three that won it, they looked at that for 10 minutes
Yeah.
before they made their decision.
We got Chris, so what's your bet of the day real quick? Today's
my bet of the day is the Knicks. The Knicks are at Miami. Knicks are playing great basketball.
Great
They're as hot as anybody in the league right now. Here's a crazy thing about the Knicks. They are one of the best road teams
I know they
in the
are.
NBA. They've won
Yeah.
60% of their
That's
road
crazy.
games.
You know what scares me about that? Right now, the Cavs are 4 and the Knicks are 5.
Yeah.
I think it's a game
If
and a
that
half difference.
holds,
Right.
we get the best road team in the NBA
That's right.
to host. But the worst part about it is the stretch now is just a game and a half. If they pass us, they would host the Cavs, and that's going to be a nice
Jalen Brunson of the Knicks has been a breakout star in the NBA this year. So there you go. All right. We got Chris.
Chris Rose, welcome. You're at the Combine, right? What'd you run? Did you run the 40 yet?
Good.
What would you run? If we put you out there right now, what would you run in the 40?
Dude, that's Eisen's thing. I have a 2-time back surgery participant.
Oh, okay.
That's what I am. So I wouldn't even pass the medical part of the combine.
That's funny.
All right,
as
that's
So
cool.
you're not doing the weightlifting either, huh?
no.
No, weightlifting for me is getting my fat ass out of the bed and down to the gym. That's plenty of weightlifting.
Hey, what's the big story from the Combine? Is there anything that sort of developed that we didn't expect to develop so far?
I mean, obviously the Jalen Carter news was huge.
Yeah.
I think the most shocking thing out of everything was that he actually returned here to Indianapolis yesterday
shocked by that.
and was down on the field while his fellow defensive linemen were participating in the drills and all the testing. That'll obviously be the most interesting story because he could easily go number 1 if Chicago hangs on to that pick. Other than that, it was probably just the pure speed. We had 10 guys yesterday run a sub 4.5 40. Just to give you a little bit of comparison, that's twice the number that ran a year ago. And it's the most of any defensive lineman linebacker group in the last 20 years since the statistics became available here at the Combine. So it is a fast group. When you have a 38-35 Super Bowl, you are going to need to find some fast guys that can stop the fast guys on the other side of the football. And so that will continue on with the defensive backs today at 3 o'clock Eastern on NFL Network.
Chris, I can't continue with this interview until I know what is on. I'm trying to figure out what's on your hat. Like, what is that? I need to know.
I think it's the Columbia Fireflies. This is their alternate hat. I think it's their pride hat.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What is
so
that? That's cool. All right, very good.
It's a firefly.
I couldn't tell because. All right, then. Well, now I can see it.
Yeah, my guess is just look through that mangy beard of yours. You'll find a firefly or two.
Wait a minute,
You'll
wait a
probably
minute,
find
wait a
yesterday's
minute.
lunch.
We got a mangy beard contest going on with the two. Can we get a double box of them again, Steve?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know
Wait a
whose
second.
beard is mangier.
Well, Chris has got
With
a much bigger
mangy-
budget than me. His is neat.
Chris is clean.
yeah,
This
you
is
don't
not
have a neck
mangy.
beard.
First
Never
of all,
mind.
Crawford.
You don't have a neck beard.
I mean,
This
Chris
is-
doesn't have the ability to grow it on the rest of his face, unlike me. He's not manly enough, but that's okay.
Oh, wow.
Not true. Not true at all. It's just you have to taper it. Now, I was told I never had a beard until the pandemic.
Yeah.
And my wife was like, "Listen, you're not going to be on TV for a little while. Why don't you grow out your beard?" And I was like, "Well, it's not really going to change my horseshit personality. So if you're hoping that's what happens, it's not going to change." So what I've done is I've now kept it. I tapered it yesterday, colored it a little bit, but it was very natural color. My girl Jenny in the makeup department hooked it up.
Yeah.
And so hopefully it'll make it through the weekend in Indianapolis before it turns to Santa white.
Yeah, that's.
Oh,
why
you're all white. If you didn't color it at all, you'd be all white.
No, not all white, but
All right.
it's much more white than this. Oh God!
Oh,
Please.
gee.
Take camera 3.
That looks like take any other camera.
Anything.
That looks like
Anything
a chia
other than
pet.
guys. I gotta go. I'm sorry. I can't be here anymore.
Rose is throwing up
be
in
jealous.
his mouth.
Don't be jealous of my facial hair. Let's
Wow.
go.
Chris,
Holy
Yeah.
smokes.
That's impressive.
It's a good call,
Hey,
Chris. That is mangy.
Let's get to some Browns talk here, because we've obviously spent a lot of time talking about the positions of need for the Browns. We know wide receiver, safety now with John Johnson cut, defensive tackle obviously is huge, linebacker as well. Whether it's the draft or free agency or trade, what to you is the most important addition the Browns have to make position-wise?
I think they have to fix that defensive line. I know one guy, Myles Garrett. He's good. We're fine with him. I actually thought Alex Wright earned the almost award last year. Like, he almost made a bunch of plays. He made a couple, I think, in a Baltimore game, that Saturday night special at home. So I would count him as part of the rotation. Other than that, there's not a lot that we can depend on. I thought Isaiah Thomas, he had a really good camp and then got a little dinged up. And I think he'll have a chance to participate in that rotation as well this year. But this is a very deep class in edge rushers, as we saw yesterday. I think there are going to be a bunch of guys available there at 42 for him. I do think the defensive tackle, for years they have nickel and dimed at that position, and they have given mid-round picks a shot, whether it's Perion Winfrey, Jordan Elliott, Tommy Togiai, all of those guys. And they, a few years ago, they stopgapped it nicely with Sheldon Richardson and Malik Jackson and Malik McDowell and guys like that. Well, they got off of that a year ago, and it really cost them. I mean, there were games where there were just massive holes in the middle. There were certainly some guys who participated yesterday and guys who were here in Indy but didn't hit the turf, like a guy like Mozzie Smith, who is just a freakish athlete out of Michigan, that may be available there at 42. And I think in Jim Schwartz's defense, knowing what he has run in recent years with guys who are very talented in the interior and can get to the passer, that it wouldn't shock me if that's the direction they go at 42.
Chris, do you believe that the Browns will pursue any of Deshaun Watson's older teammates, Cooks or DeAndre Hopkins? Do you think
Or even Hunter Renfrow from college?
Or Hunter Renfrow, yeah, from college. Do you think they'll pursue any of those guys and try to upgrade the receiver position?
It's possible. The last few years, this wide receiver class has been excellent. Really. I mean, it was like 3 or 4 straight years. When you watch this weekend with the Combine, and you'll want to, because C.J. Stroud of Ohio State's going to throw, Will Levis, the kid out of Kentucky, Anthony Richardson out of Florida. So 3 of the big 4 quarterbacks are expected to throw this weekend. You'll notice that the wide receiver, when Daniel Jeremiah, our awesome draft analyst, talks about this class, he'll say it's not as deep as it's been. But there are a few guys that I think that are going to pop on the Browns' radar. So what does that mean? Are there certain guys that maybe make a little bit more money, that if the Browns are able to restructure Watson and make another move or two and open up some cap space, that they'll trade some of those later round picks for him? Yeah, I think that's a real possibility. Now, I would not go after D-Hop. I think at this point of his career, based on what he's making, and I don't see that. I think that's like fantasy football if you want to do that. I don't think that's real football that helps you win games.
None of the other names. What about Renfrow? And nice chemistry at Clemson.
I think Cooks makes the most sense of the other guys.
That feels like a lifetime ago. I mean, to say he had nice chemistry at Clemson, that was 2017 or 20. I mean, it's just. I mean, really, they're different players. They've been through a lot. Renfrow can barely stay on the field at times. Brandon Cooks, now that one would interest me, right? I think he's past the dinged up phase. I mean, that's what always happened, whether it was New Orleans or New England or LA and then Houston. He couldn't stay on the field. It felt like he was there last year. I know that they had a little bit of an issue with them ripping the C off of his jersey or whatever that was, but that dude can play.
Chris, Jackson Smith-Njigba is at the podium today. He's gonna do drills but not run the 40, despite saying his hamstring's 100%. Is that kind of weird that he's not participating in the 40 when his hamstring's allegedly fully healthy after not playing all season?
Yeah, I mean, he'll run the 40 at some point, I would imagine. So he'll be at the Buckeye Pro Day and run it. You know, it was an odd season for him, wasn't it? You know, we saw him get hurt in that first game, and then he just never really got back into it, and he's still considered a high-end first-round pick, and in fact might even be the first receiver off the board, depending on how things shake out. So it'll be nice to just see him out here and catching passes again, because he's a talented kid. But I don't think you ever sit here and judge a kid based on what they do, what they don't do here. They still have other opportunities at their pro days and things like that. So they do take care of business when they have to.
By the way, for those who don't know, his brother is in the Pirates organization.
Good baseball player.
Yeah.
And
He
he's
got hurt
battling for a
last
roster.
year. I think right after didn't he get called up and then he got hurt?
And then he got hurt.
Yeah.
He the only beef I have with it is in my nerdy baseball spreadsheets. He makes my Pirates team too wide.
With the last name.
The name's too long, so can we cut off one of the last names so it fits nicely in my
I don't know.
spreadsheet?
Talk to his parents about that.
I'd like to do that.
I mean, does anybody else see the irony in a guy with a mangy beard talking about things that should be trimmed?
Yeah.
Because
And wait a minute, how
don't
many
know.
letters are in your last name, Bull?
That's true. There are 12 letters in my last name,
All right.
but I don't use it on the air, right? I don't use it on the air. That's why I have a nickname. I cut it down.
Adam the Bull.
There you go.
Hey,
You
Chris,
weren't
I know what I
Adam
wanted
the
to
Bull?
ask you. Yeah, that's what it's on his birth certificate, Adam
It is.
the Bull.
I've changed it
His
legally.
middle name's
Yeah.
Doug. I had a question for you. It just hit me again. On 1 to 100, 100 is Deshaun. You're certain Deshaun Watson will return to the player he was when he was at his peak in Houston. 0 being for certain he won't. Where are you on that sliding scale?
where do I hope I would be, or where am I?
No, where are you? Because I know where I'd hope I would. I have a huge difference between where I am and where I would.
Yeah.
Where I hope I would be.
It was tough to watch those last 6 games.
Yeah.
There was so little that you saw out of him that said, yeah, that's the guy we traded for. You know, it felt really kind of like a half against Washington, and that was about it. There was too much one read, backpedal, run to the right. It was a lot of what Baker did when he wasn't very good. With all that being said, he was a really talented quarterback in Houston. Really, really talented quarterback. So I'm still, at probably like a low B, like an 82.
Wow. Okay.
That he will return to form. I think that last year was challenging on a lot of levels for everybody, including the coaching staff.
You know what scares me, Chris? Because you're right. I mean, once upon a time, the eye test told you this is a guy who could win a Super Bowl, but not too long ago, around the same time we were saying that about Watson, we thought the same thing of Carson Wentz. And there are other guys whose stars were high and flamed.
But Carson Wentz did it for, in my opinion,
1 season.
2/3 of a season. Whereas Deshaun Watson, his entire time in Houston.
But he did it. Like our eyes told us when he got hurt, he was the MVP.
Jay, like Robert Griffin III was good for 1 year too. This guy, his entire time in Houston was elite. The entire time.
He was not a shooting star, right? Carson Wentz was great. He was really interesting his rookie year. And then in 2017, he played at an MVP level. And then he got hurt. And then he never really got it back.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson.
He's had 2 ACLs.
I'm still confident that he can get there.
Okay,
And
yeah,
by the
82
way,
is pretty confident.
If he doesn't get there, maybe that's just the optimist in me, that I'm rooting so hard for it, because we can talk about defensive tackles and trying to replace John Johnson in the secondary and do we need a linebacker. The fact is, if that guy does not get back to being a top 8 quarterback, then all of this is null and void.
It's
That's
a
right.
rack.
That's just being honest. It
No,
just
you're
doesn't,
absolutely
it doesn't
right.
matter. When you have spent that much draft capital and that much financially on a guy, now where he's eating up $55 million a year in cap space, if he is not elite, he can't just be okay.
No.
He's got to
No.
be elite,
Agreed.
or we're going to be sitting here at the draft next year without a first-round pick and wondering, how the hell do we fix this thing?
He can't just
It's
be
impossible.
good. He has to be elite.
Yeah, they're
Good-
completely
good
screwed.
is not enough. Yeah.
And they're locked in for years. So they're completely everything's on the line this season, because if he's not the guy we thought he was, or if he's not the guy he was in Houston, then Stefanski gets fired and Berry gets fired, and the Browns,
they're starting over,
future,
but from a worse place
but they
than
can't
ever.
start over because they still have
No,
Watson.
but the fact of the matter is,
Yeah.
like if you're in Denver right now and you're looking around going, what the hell are we going to do? Russell Wilson isn't the guy that we thought he was. Now you're trying to resurrect that. What I'm saying is, if you blow everybody out,
Yeah.
and you bring another coach in, you're starting from ground zero. But what's worse about that, to Chris's point, when we're 0-16 and 1-15, at least you were accumulating fantastic draft capital that will help you dig out of that hole. This is going to
Yes.
be a hole
There's
unlike
nothing.
any we've seen.
You won't be able to-
because they're all in
Well,
on this
I
guy.
wouldn't agree with you there.
How is this?
I wouldn't
How would
agree
it
with you
be?
there.
How have we experienced this before? Because when we've sucked before, we were getting great draft picks, even though we were blowing them. We were getting them.
I hate picks.
But that doesn't
I
matter.
do too.
I mean, it's not where you draft. It's who you draft. I mean,
Well,
why
yeah,
have
but
the
it's also
Steelers now
luck,
gone
too.
16? Well, Jay, let me finish here for a second.
Go ahead. But if Burrow is, if the Browns had the one pick, when Burrow was coming out, we're set.
Right. And the year before, the Arizona Cardinals took Kyler Murray. Where are they right now?
Exactly where we thought they'd be. I've never been a Murray guy.
That's not fair, because they made the playoffs 2 years ago.
Right,
And then
but the Browns
people are
made
like, hey.
But the Browns made it with Baker
I know,
Mayfield.
but you can argue both sides. My point is, Jay, you can argue both sides of this coin, is that the Browns were 7-10 a year ago and had several games where we went, wow, that was really Cleveland of us.
Yeah.
So what I would say here is that I still think that Deshaun Watson is going to get – I would be more surprised if he looked like he did the last 6 games than if he looked like he did in 2020 with the Houston Texans.
Agreed.
Right? And, we can sit here and say, well, they're going to have to blow out Stefanski and Berry. We've got to give this a whole season to play out. Not a season where they know they're going to play one quarterback for 11 games and then another quarterback for 6 games and have to modify the offense on the fly. Listen, I think Kevin Stefanski can really coach offense. I've watched a lot of Jacoby Brissett starts before this year because it's my job. He never looked as good as he did this year. Never. And hopefully it gets him a lot of money in free agency. And I don't know if he's going to be the opening day quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders or somebody else. But that offense, the first 11 games, could win you ball games. And that's with a guy who's not close to as talented as Deshaun Watson.
That's
so
fair.
we got to give this a shot.
I don't think anybody's
And,
advocating firing them mid-season. Although G. Bush has said
Oh,
if
no,
they start 2-4,
but I mean, still,
he wants
I mean-
everybody gone.
Yeah, bye.
Yeah, but we can't do the whole, if they don't get it done this year, then we'll deal with that when it comes.
Well, so
I
Chris-
want to see it all play out this coming year.
I know it's impossible to speculate because a 7-10, like last year, 7-10 did feel a hell of a lot better than most 7-10s because they gifted 2 games and they easily could have been 9-8 and they still could have been in a playoff spot. But
Right.
and barring an injury from Watson, let's say Watson plays the whole year and we get another 7-10. The consensus of voices we've had on this show, from our regular panelists to our guests that come in on a regular basis, the general consensus is a 7-10 with a healthy Watson, and they're cleaning house. I don't think everybody seems to think no one is safe.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
I get that. So what if you play the what if game? What if they go 10-7 and they lose as a first round wild card? Then what are you saying? That it's not good enough?
No. I think that's a whole different story because you're making progress. The one thing you don't want to do is slide backwards, and that's what we've done.
I think the Browns can have a great season this year and lose in the first round. The Bengals, the Chiefs, and the Bills are right now way, way, way ahead of the Browns. The first step is for the Browns to close the gap on those teams.
Yes.
I don't know that they can get to that level in 1 year. Now, if Deshaun Watson plays like a superstar, maybe. But it's hard when you're a team that has never done anything in the playoffs to just assume you're going to make a deep run. I agree with you, Chris. If Deshaun Watson gets back to being the player he was in Houston, and I'm with Chris that I think it's more likely than not that we will see that, then everything's okay. They're not going to go 7-10 if Deshaun Watson's that quarterback.
No.
Not with the talent they have here. But to Chris, your point they initially made, the Browns in those first 11 games had a bad record because the defense was terrible. Not because the offense didn't play well enough. Jacoby Brissett, he's not great, but he played well enough. Nick Chubb played great. Offense did their job. The defense, it was awful last year. And that's why they were 4-7 after those games.
Well, I'll make one other point here real quickly. It's part of the reason that this weekend and the draft is so vital for a team like the Browns. Patrick Mahomes is far and away, right, the biggest reason why the Chiefs won the Super Bowl this year. Yeah. But after the connection between Mahomes and Travis Kelce, look at the number of rookies they relied on. Isaiah Pacheco,
it's unreal.
7th rounder. Trent McDuffie, Karlaftis, both first-round picks.
I know.
We lost him. They had 6 starters.
6
that were
rookie
rookies.
starters.
6 rookie starters. And we had guys last year that were drafted high enough that we thought they might be able to crack the starting lineup. And really, with the exception of Emerson on defense.
Well, Cade York.
Cade York, but
Cade York special teams.
He was one of one.
11 and 11.
Alex Wright started later in the season.
By the way, Andy Reid's done that throughout his career.
Yeah.
He finds ways, and I don't know if he's drafting
and it's
guys
not just
that
about
starting.
starting; it's about being a good player.
It is, but if you're in the starting lineup for a Super Bowl team, you're a good player.
Sure, right. But you could have been a starter for the Browns at defensive tackle, and you were not a good player.
Well, you could have started for the Browns at defensive tackle.
They just don't. The Browns really don't draft difference makers like that. Like they get.
Or is it they're not coaching them up to be difference makers like that?
That's one of the same. Right?
I think it's an impossible question to answer.
It's one of the same. Well,
I know it's a chicken or the egg.
I'll look at it like this. I continue to go back over 30 years. I can even tell you they had one decent linebacker, DeQuell Jackson.
We got Chris back.
Chris, you were making the point about all the rookies that came in and had an impact for the Chiefs. And is it they're drafting the right guys? It's probably a combination of both, but I want your take on it. They're just drafting guys that other teams are missing, or once they get them into the system, they know exactly the kind of player they want, and then they're coached up to be difference makers in a Super Bowl championship lineup.
Yeah, I mean it's probably a wonderful combination of both. By the way, this is how much I like you guys. That was my agent that called. So I had to hit the decline button, and then you couldn't hear. Listen. If I missed out on replacing James Corbin or something, don't worry about it. I'll always be here for the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, one way or another.
Thank you, Chris.
Jerks.
Well, Chris, bad on you. You always take calls from your agent.
Mike, did you?
Yeah,
always.
That's okay.
All right.
Not when we're.
Okay.
How often do I get to be heated talking about Cleveland sports?
Yeah,
he can wait.
I know.
He can wait.
You miss it, don't you?
Chris, we got to talk. Wait, hold on. Before we let you go,
we got 2 questions. He's got one. I got one.
Hold
Chris.
on.
Very
We got to get to the best franchise in Cleveland. Stop wasting time with the Browns. Let's talk about these Lake Erie monsters. They are having a tremendous. The Guardians coming off a great season last year. They are the favorite to win the division. I think we all expect, at least I do, the White Sox to be better, more competitive, although they seem to have bad chemistry every year. Maybe a new manager, they'll be better. With the Guardians, with so much success from young players last year, my first question is, who are you most concerned about the sophomore slump, if you will, and who are you most confident in of the young players, no doubt in your mind, is going to have a great second season as well?
I am most concerned about Oscar Gonzalez.
Yep.
The swing is long. He's got a chase rate, but he had an unbelievable ability when there were 2 strikes on him to somehow put it in play. I love the kid. I love everything about him. I think he's an exceptional athlete. Obviously, there's a lot more pop in there than the 11 homers. So I hate to talk negatively about it, but if you are going to put me on the spot and say that there's a guy I'm most worried about, that would be it. I think I'm most confident in Stephen Kwan. And I know that the baseball sabermetricians don't love it because he doesn't have a great exit velo off the bat and things of that nature. And they feel like a lot of his hits are lucky, though that's what they're qualified as. But, man, in a year where there's no shift now, he feels like he's using a tennis racket out there sometimes with his ability to put the ball wherever he wants on a diamond, which is hard as hell to do. But I just think that he's got some sort of innate ability, something special about him that can do it. I do expect us to be very much in it in September. It doesn't mean that I think we're definitely the favorite. I don't necessarily put it that way. I like what the Twins did in the offseason a little bit. Not only just bringing back Correa, but, Vasquez they added behind the plate. They made a couple of pitching moves that I think will help them. Yeah. The White Sox will be interesting. I think the managerial change is really going to help solidify that team, but I think they're really going to miss Jose Abreu, man. God, I'm so happy he's out of the division. Yeah. Like, there's always, at some point over the last 25 years, there's always been a first baseman in the division that has hammered us. And he was the guy the last 7 or 8 years. Yeah. And I'm just happy he's in Houston.
Chris, one more before you run, but I have Battlebots have infiltrated my TikTok algorithm, and I can't swipe 3 or 4 times without seeing and watching an entire Battlebot fight, which if you haven't watched Battlebots, it is awesome. You do an awesome job on those calls. Who's the GOAT bot, and which one is your personal favorite?
Oh, come on. That's like asking which one of my kids is my favorite, which I'll tell you offline. Because we don't really have a favorite child. But with Battlebots, we had 50 robots from a bunch of different countries.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it is great. If you haven't seen it before, real quickly, it's a pair of 250-pound robots that are fighting inside of a bulletproof glass cube, and they've got blades spinning at 250 miles an hour, and they're just beating the crap out of each other and setting people on fire and flipping them 15 feet in the air. It's unreal. And that's Thursday nights at 8 o'clock Cleveland time on Discovery, or you can get it on Discovery Plus and stream it at any point. It's a ton of fun. Some of my favorites, like I've become really good friends with a guy named Will Bales, who's the builder of Hypershock. Last night, he got launched about 15 feet in the air by a former champion called Endgame. And his bot lost a wheel and it's wobbling around, kind of like your kids when they first start walking, they do the drunk walk. Well, that's kind of like the way the robot was looking last night. So it's, I love flipper bots because they're able to slide under their opponents and launch them 15 or 20 feet into the air. You have to remember they're 250-pound robots. So it'd be like taking one of me and throwing me 250 feet in the air. Maybe I'm a little under 250, but you get the point.
Are you ringside for these?
Yes. Kenny Florian, right? Kenny Florian's your co-host?
Yeah, with Kenny Florian, former UFC fighter, who is a great dude.
Concern at all that you get injured if these things are going that high in the air?
No, it's a bulletproof cage.
All the way, and it goes as high as...
Jay, I will turn you on to Chris. I will make him a Battlebots fan.
I got to check this out, man. This sounds nuts.
The best one's the one,
but I will tell you this, Jay,
that has a spinning thing in the front. That's my favorite one. Little small silver one that has a spinny thing in the front.
That sounds like a stripper bot. To be honest with you.
That's why it's his favorite. That's why it's his favorite, Chris.
Guilty as charged.
Please welcome to the stage,
Cinnamon.
By the way, Chris, if we took Chris in profile right now, with your beard, you kind of look a little like Ben Zobrist circa 2016 a little bit right now.
You're right.
It's a little Ben Zobrist going on right now.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, that's probably not Bull, that's probably not the best name to bring up in Cleveland history.
I apologize.
But
I apologize. But, he was a great player.
That's fine with me. I would take I think he signed like a 4-year, $66 million deal with the Cubs. So maybe that's what my agent was calling me about.
Good luck.
A Ben Zobrist biopic.
Double. One last question. This robot stuff.
Battlebots.
Does it travel or is it always shot in the same location?
Yeah, so we shoot it. We've moved around. We started out actually near CC Sabathia's home up in Vallejo, California. That was where we shot the first one. Then we shot it in downtown LA for a season, then Long Beach for 3. But the last 2, we have a home out in Las Vegas. And to be honest with you, they have turned it into a live Vegas show.
It should be.
So if you are in Vegas,
there it goes.
If you're bringing kids, for example, or if you hang out for a night and go drink and watch these things fight, we're right behind Caesars. We have an awesome camp set up, and they have a live show. I think it's 5 nights a week. Jay, are you finally checking it out?
How have I not known about this?
It's awesome.
Like, this is right up my alley. Oh, so and then the owner or the builder is handling the remote control.
Yeah, there's the teams of 6, right? Or 5 or 6.
Oh my!
Do we ever see fights between the builders?
No, it's actually it's an amazing community of people.
Okay.
Like, they're just wonderful people.
JV swipe.
The thing I love about it most, I got to be honest with you guys. I mean, you know me. I'm a sports guy. So when I was hired in 2015, I didn't know a damn thing about it. So I'm auditioning for it. And I'm watching some clips on YouTube, just like Jay's doing right now. Our oldest son at the time was a freshman, just finishing his freshman year in high school. His name's Josh. He walks downstairs. He says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm auditioning for this show." Yeah. He watches 90 seconds of a clip with me, and he goes, "You are not doing that show." I said, "What do you mean?" Well, first of all, I don't even have the job. Why am I not going to do it? He said, "Dad, I'll get laughed out of school." And I was like, no, that's pretty fun, whatever. Long story short, I end up getting the job. It's a summer replacement on ABC. It did pretty well at the time. His buddies loved the show. They all watched it together. And I remember walking into his room one day, and I said, "You're welcome. You're finally not a loser."
These things are catching on
you
fire.
go.
Wow.
How are they going so high? It almost looks like they're propelled, not pushed.
It's like machine. They're so strong. It's giant robots.
Engineers, man.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
We appreciate you, man.
Guys, take care. I always appreciate it.
All
See
right.
you
See
later.
you, Chris.
Chris Rose.
What night of the week?
I just watched it on TikTok. I'll be honest.
There you go.
Bull, have you seen this before?
I think I have.
I've never in my life
I've
seen
seen it.
this.
Yeah.
I've seen
and
it.
it is outrageous.
It's awesome. It's really cool.
I'd like to watch one in person.
I would love to. We should have a UCSS trip to Vegas to watch them film this.
Or they should bring it to Cleveland and put it at Rocket Mortgage.
That'd be awesome too.
I wonder how many people that would actually go to watch that in person.
Oh, a lot of people.
I wonder what the line is, Earl. You think BetJack could put a line on that?
Well, we about
what
to
a
find out.
smooth
Speaking
transition.
of BetJack, the time is now. Ohio sports fans, sports betting is live. Download the BetJack app today so you'll be ready to go all in on the action. BetJack's Ohio sportsbook.
Yes, it is.
We got to talk linebackers now, fellas.
Let's get it.
We were.
Bad job out of you, Jay, by the way.
We don't have any. Why would I do?
So I've been, in the cut watching all week, and I thought that you would kind of bring this up. Like, we only got 2 or 3 under contract, and everybody talking about defensive tackle.
So
and
here's
wide
the thing.
receiver.
That's a good point. You're right. We should have spent a lot more time talking about linebackers this week. But here's the problem. We are so bare of talent at the front line of attack that before you can think about the second line of attack, you've got to think about the first line of attack. But we still should have spent more time talking about the linebackers. Now, we've all said all along, for me, it's defensive line, linebacker, wide receiver. I think you're different. You want wide receiver, defensive line, linebacker.
G agrees with me on wide receiver first.
He's going back and forth.
I need 6 people. I need 6 to 8.
Yeah.
I don't even like to rank them because
Well, but that's ultimately
the
that's what
Browns
the Browns
can't mess
have to do.
around. They got to get all 3.
They do, but ultimately they do have to. All organizations make priorities in the offseason, and they rank their priorities, and they do it several ways. Available talent, so they're looking at the draft and the pool of players that are available at DL, wide receiver, and linebacker. They're also doing the same for
safety.
Players that are free agents. Safety, to me, safety is a need. I'm not going to say it's not. We'd love to upgrade there, particularly now you have to. But to me, safety was 4th on my list. My list is first and foremost.
I still agree, but they do
defensive
need a
line.
safety as well now.
And then linebacker, and then for me, wide receiver. Yeah. So because the wide receiver, I don't know who said it on the call this morning, but if you just look at the roster and the guys that the Browns have on their roster with an LB next to their name, there's 3 guys on the team under contract, and they're all coming off injury.
Let's be clear. They're all terrible. Like, that's not.
Is JOK terrible, though?
No, he's not. Well, he played.
He was terrible this year.
He played terrible.
I mean,
we've seen
DeQuell
things.
said they should cut him.
He's
Yeah,
fast.
I know he did, which surprised me.
He's fast. I mean, I can't just give someone. He's fast.
The best linebacker in the last 20 years here in Cleveland said
Just
the
do
Browns
what?
should cut
Yeah.
this
He's
linebacker.
also
That
in-
doesn't mean he's right, but
He's also-
Does anybody agree with him? Because I don't.
I
don't
wouldn't-
think we
I wouldn't
should cut him.
cut him.
Oh no. That's hyperbole.
Listen,
You're
That's
not gonna,
Duke and Need.
that's hyperbole.
I will say that I don't think they should cut him, but DeQuell knows way more about playing linebacker than anybody else we know.
He
Yes.
does, but the question that has to be answered before you answer that
If
question
you cut him,
is who's
going
going
to
to replace him?
DeQuell, if you text DeQuell, did he really mean
I'll text him right now.
cut him?
I'll text him right now.
Ask him, did you really mean
cut, or did you say he's kind of terrible?
He's with Stefanski right now, so he could ask Stefanski.
Yeah, like
Oh, he's at the combine?
Yeah. I got tagged in so many tweets like, is this DeQuell? Is he working for the Browns now? I was like, no, he's just.
he just
He
there.
should say he's working for us.
People in Indy, yeah.
So here's the thing, like, in the end, wide receiver to me is way most important because the Browns have to have a dynamic passing game to be the team we want them to be, in my opinion. But since we brought up linebacker, obviously it's important. It's an area that they have not. We talked about they haven't really spent high draft capital at defensive tackle, which they have. The last high draft capital they spent on defensive tackle was Danny Shelton, which was. What year was that?
The year after Baker, right?
17?
When was
15?
Ogunjobi? No, it was later than that.
17 was Shelton, wasn't it?
I think 17 might have been Shelton.
16 or 17.
Okay.
I don't know. But anyway, and linebacker, the only high draft capital they've spent is on JOK. Who else have they haven't spent big money
Well,
or
didn't
high
Jacob Phillips?
No, they drafted Taki Taki, and they drafted the guy that they traded
But
to New
Taki
England.
Taki was like a 4th round pick, wasn't
Well, I think he was a third rounder.
round
The
pick.
second rounder was the guy they drafted from Alabama.
Mac
Jones.
Mac Wilson.
Mac Wilson.
he? So they
no,
did spend on.
Mac Wilson was a 6th round pick.
Was he a 6th round?
6
Yeah,
or 7.
I think he was later.
I don't know.
He
To me,
slipped
high
up,
draft capital is 1st and 2nd
First and
round.
second. Linebackers don't typically go that high in the draft.
The position's been devalued.
Inside linebackers.
All right, so they had
like edge
3rd
rushers
round.
and
See,
go.
fine.
But the one thing I'll say about
Go ahead.
linebackers in this free agency class, which I think benefits the Browns, is there aren't a ton of like elite. There's no Roquan Smith out there. There's a list of guys. They're all good. Like Tremaine Edmonds would be a nice fit. T.J. Edwards would be a nice fit. Levante David probably a little out of their price range. But there's 2 guys, Devin Bush in Pittsburgh and Denzel Perryman coming out of Vegas, who are both going to be relatively cheap options that I think are massive upgrades over what Cleveland currently has, especially in the interior, that if they could get either of those 2 at $4 to $5 million a year, I think that's a massive, or would be a massive upgrade at a relative price compared to what they're going to have to spend in the other positions
Sure.
to revamp this defense.
Yeah,
I
but
like those names.
that position has to be addressed, and I know Bull just said a second ago that for him it's far and away the offense.
Yeah.
But we've all agreed on this all year. Like the offense wasn't the problem last year.
I
know,
do
but
think Bull's right. They need a receiver. though.
Offense needs to be dynamic. Well, give me that list of linebackers again.
It was
Who
Edmonds.
made this list?
Bobby
We
Wagner's
did a
at the
couple.
top.
Well, we made
How do
it.
you not have Jermaine Pratt on this list?
Jermaine
he wasn't
Pratt
a full
and
free
Bobby
agent.
Wagner.
Why
on
would
my
we have
top.
Anthony Walker? Levante David's like 100 at this point.
Well, these were guys in the price range we were thinking the Browns would spend in a linebacker.
I mean,
we made this a while ago.
Yeah, they're not going to spend the money that.
Anthony Walker's a nice guy. It's enough with Anthony Walker. Like, we got to have a guy who can. You got to be reliable. He's not reliable. He can't make the club from the tub. There, G. Bush.
It's tough that you installing a new defense, right?
Yeah.
And you got guys that ain't even cleared to perform.
Yeah.
Practice.
To practice. Like you can't, like, this the most pivotal time when we're learning the defense, getting people together. Anthony Walker, I like Anthony Walker. He's cool. He's not a playmaker. He's a guy. He's a jag. He's just a guy.
That's
you
right.
put in there. When we watching these other teams,
Well, he does bring leadership too. Everybody raved about the leadership that he brought.
Hey, leadership don't get ball carriers on the ground. You can't Captain Planet nobody on the ground. Hey, Captain Kirk, lay down for me. No, I need you to make plays. JOK is there. He's fast. Let's see if Schwartz can work with him. But I need a ball player in the middle. A guy. When just go back and watch. I'm in the midst of my all 22 vacation. See how many times a ball carrier gets hit and takes a defender on a ride for 3 to 4 yards.
Yep.
Yeah.
They hit him 3 yards, carry him 2 more yards, 5.
I think
And
to me,
sometimes slip it and go 12.
And then go to the
or the
house.
distance.
I think to me the perfect offseason would be the Browns. We've talked about the Browns signing Jesse Bates. They should sign Jermaine Pratt from the Bengals.
I take that right now.
He's a difference maker at linebacker.
What's he going to command, Bull?
I don't know. I'm not really sure what middle linebackers like command.
I think
It's
it's
good
going to be more than the Browns want to spend.
I don't know.
Whoever
The
Browns
linebacker
have-
signs first is going to set the market. I don't think there's a real market gauge out there.
I
for
would
that.
like to see them sign Pratt. Whoever the best defensive tackle is, they should acquire 2 veteran defensive tackles. One through free agency, one through the trade. Sign Pratt. Trade for Brandon Cooks. Let's go. Stop effing around here.
I do have some good news for Browns fans, though. And DeQuell had told us this right after they hired Jim Schwartz. And this was a conversation I had with him in the gym. He said he talked to his boy Stephen Tulloch. Remember Stephen Tulloch played for the Titans for a long time under Schwartz? Mm-hmm. Tulloch was an undersized, very late, I think he was actually undrafted. I don't even think he was drafted. But 5'10" guy who, outside of his time in Tennessee with Schwartz, had a very pedestrian NFL career.
Yeah.
In Tennessee, he was extremely productive. And DeQuell called him after Schwartz hired and goes, hey, what can you tell me about Jim Schwartz in preparation for coming on our show? And Tulloch said he made me the best player I possibly could have been. He taught me how to play the position in his scheme better than anyone's ever taught me how to play linebacker in their
what's your
scheme
point?
before.
You
I'm
save
hoping
JOK?
he can not only save JOK, but you bring someone in there like a Devin Bush who's really talented, who hasn't performed.
Yeah.
And we could see a guy on a relatively cheap contract go from being solid like he was in Pittsburgh to really good.
That's what you got to hit up. You got to hit. That's what they did with Ethan Pocic, right?
Yeah.
You spent money. You spent no money on a guy who became a quality starting player. The problem is the Browns haven't done that enough.
Yeah, but let's
the
face
good
it,
teams
that
have,
is lightning in a bottle. I
no,
mean,
but the good teams.
It happens. It happens.
The
but
good teams are going to have 3, 4, 5 guys like that. Not that are late draft picks or a guy you trade for on an afterthought trade, like a minor trade at the
like the
at
Giants
the
getting
cutdown
Isaiah
day.
Hodgins from the
Something like
Buffalo
that.
Bills. Yeah.
You know, and you have to have the good teams. You'll find guys like that.
Yeah.
Every time.
I know that's the hope, but trying to duplicate that and even relying on that.
No, you can't rely on it.
It's very difficult. But the good GMs can do it.
But in the end, it's got to happen for the good. To be good, you got to have some surprise.
The fact
good
that it
players.
happened with Pocic makes us believe that it can happen here.
And Pocic was a guy with talent. He was a second-round pick coming out of LSU.
Right.
Comes to play for Bill Callahan, and then we see him develop into the player Seattle thought they were drafting 4 years ago. Like that's why a guy like Bush or Perriman, who were top first or second round
maybe
draft
Schwartz
picks,
will be the
Schwartz can do the same
defensive
thing with them.
whisperer,
Exactly.
Like Callahan is the OL whisperer.
Listen, I was in my bag. I was doing some research.
That's scary.
And man, this dude Jim Schwartz was breaking down some stuff that I ain't never really heard of. Like, you know me, I listen. He was breaking it down in a way. Like, I'm gonna give you a tidbit because I'm gonna make a video of this. But Jim Schwartz was doing a seminar, and they talking about, he goes back to when they had Javon Curse. And he's saying Javon Curse was like one of the first guys that was getting upfield doing his thing as a pass rusher. Mm-hmm. He said nobody could block him. He said, but when we was playing teams like Rich Gannon, you know, he got back then with the Raiders, he said he was killing the guy. He was killing the tackle. He graded out at 95%, but they was getting rid of the ball. He said when I went back, I was charting the plays, 0.1, 1.2 seconds, 1.5 seconds. He said, he's killing the guy, but we're never going to get home. So he said what we had to do, what we started doing is we started rushing a spot rather than rushing
where the player's standing.
Where it's at. He said, so we would take our little graph and we would have dots, right? We put a dot on wherever he would throw the ball. He said then you got to a point where we had so many dots, we put it in a spreadsheet.
Oh, wow.
And so now when you look at his cluster, you're looking at where he's throwing the ball at. So then he says, we rush to spots.
You get your hands up trying to
We
block
rush
passes.
to
Fascinating.
We don't rush. He said we don't, that old thing, like gap integrity, we got 2 ends that's going to contain and 2 defensive tackles that's going to get upfield. He said, nah, I don't want to do that. He said, to be truthful, we only contain into one side of the field. I was like, what are you talking about? He said, well.
That's next level stuff.
He said, well, if I already know that the quarterbacks, say for instance, a Michael Vick, we always wanted Michael Vick rolling to his right instead of his left because he couldn't throw the ball. He said, if you're a right-handed quarterback, we always told our guy that we wanted to get our defensive ends on 2-way goes. So you hit or move, we're not even worried about contain. And because we know you're going to run to that spot, you're not going to pay attention to the backside defensive end who will come and get a strip sack. And I thought that was I had never heard nothing like that in my life, that these dudes are rushing to specific parts of the field rather than the traditional gap integrity.
And basically relying on tendencies and patterns and know where the ball's going.
Yeah, I was like, wow. And that was just the first.
Is that why they start in the wide 9? To get better angles to get to certain spots as opposed to going one-on-one?
Look, I haven't read the rest of the book yet. Jim
Let
Schwartz,
us know.
I'll let you know, man. That first part blew it was the first 20 minutes of the seminar. I'm like, what do you mean you ain't containing? He said, you don't need to contain he said, in the league, guys are looking to get you and hurt you downfield. Real quarterbacks don't want to scramble for 10 because they understand that 10 is not going to do anything. We'll just do it again. It just resets the pattern.
Sure.
They want the big plays. So we don't have to contain him. He'll run out there, but we're running to a spot. He said, some people, we don't even want to sack. We don't want sacks from that person.
I wonder if we saw a stretch of quarterbacks. Kaepernick, RG3, certainly Vic was the front edge of that wave, and we've seen others behind him. Lamar Jackson, to me, is the guy that's done it most effectively. I wonder if the defense has caught up, and that's the cheat code against Lamar Jackson to why we've seen his numbers come like this.
Definitely.
It almost, to me, hearing you explain it, it sounds crystal clear to me now, but I think that's what that's the adjustment the league has made to try to.
Jalen Hurts played that way this year.
Well, the difference between Hurts, I think Hurts is a mobile quarterback, but he's not the guy he's not the home run hitter. Like, I think Justin Fields is. But he hasn't been able to come with the arm yet.
Yeah,
Fields is fast, yeah.
That's the cheat. If you're going to run.
Yeah, but Jalen Hurts, the difference between Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson is that Jalen Hurts has better talent around him.
Yeah, he does, but I also think that Lamar Jackson is just a better runner than Jalen Hurts.
From a
Yeah, but I think Lamar is just as good a passer as Jalen Hurts is, if not better.
I think he's a better passer. But what G is explaining here, to me, I think that, we have seen somehow, some way, the league, through some magic potion, has taken away that cheat code of Lamar Jackson. I feel that. I think we all kind of see he's regressed.
He has regressed.
And so oftentimes
He was great early in the season.
But there are other
No, he
quarterbacks who
was.
have regressed too.
But I know. But what he's talking about specifically, the league always catches up. Always. They always will. And then there will be something new. You remember when the Wildcat was the thing?
Yeah.
And Bill Belichick was looking across the field like, what the hell do I do to stop this? When Miami first rolled it out, it caught everybody by surprise. It worked for a long stretch. And then defensive coordinators like, we got this. We understand how to stop it. Well, with Jackson, because he was one of one. Now, there are other guys that did what Lamar did, but nobody did it like he did. To me, he was a better Michael Vick. But through the last couple of years, if you just look at his numbers, he hasn't been killing teams with those downfield throws like he was before.
Nope.
But he doesn't have any receivers.
I know, but I'm just talking about him. Forget about everything else.
We're talking about schematically.
Schematically, there's been a cheat code that the defenses have used, and I wonder if that's not it.
Yeah, I'm just not convinced that we know that for sure yet.
I don't know, but it sounds perfectly plausible to me.
Well, you got to look at
But
it.
then why couldn't they stop Jalen Hurts then?
They did stop.
They did stop Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts didn't win the Super Bowl.
He won no Super Bowl.
I think
Are
Kansas
they
City
serious
Chiefs
right now?
The Kansas City Chiefs made a decision bowl.
Did
Kansas
they
City
lose
Chiefs.
because of Jalen Hurts?
He fumbled.
No, but
he got
you
hit.
know what?
I know, but he played great in the Super Bowl.
It's the equivalent of
He
a
didn't get hit and
basketball
fumble.
team
He just
saying,
dropped it.
you're going to get 50 on us, but we're going to stop everything else.
See, that's the thing when you talk about running quarterbacks.
The Eagles didn't run the ball. That's how they had made
I
it
know
to that point.
but there was no cheat code to stop Jalen Hurts.
They didn't want to. Do your thing. You're not going to beat him.
silly.
No,
He didn't beat him.
No, that's
They scored 35.
No, hold on. See what y'all
didn't beat him.
What y'all not getting
didn't.
is what you're not getting it is you looking at 35.
Well, hold on a second. I guess there's a cheat code to stop Joe Burrow now.
No.
Well,
there's
there
not.
will be. I mean,
But
But
trust
there
me.
is because he didn't win the Super Bowl.
No.
What I'm
That's
saying,
what you just said.
I'm talking about two quarterbacks that met in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
One is obviously the more accomplished, polished quarterback.
Yes.
The other one relied heavily on a run game.
And he played better.
And here's what Andy
And
Reid.
Jalen Hurts played better than Patrick Mahomes.
He did, but you know what? You can win the battle. We're going to win the war.
We're not.
And that's what they did.
But it wasn't because of some great strategy to stop the run game. They got lucky.
We're talking about two
We
individuals.
got lucky. Come
We've
on,
hit that
guys.
wall again, Bull.
We're talking about two
Yeah.
individual players. You're missing the forest for the trees.
Yes.
The comment is, when you're talking about defensive schemes, it's how you go about stopping certain quarterbacks. Jay's talking about the fact that Lamar Jackson is a running quarterback. The reason why it's difficult for running quarterbacks to continue to win Super Bowls is because defensive coordinators will give you that. Joe Burrow is different from Hurts. You know why? Because Joe Burrow is the guy that is looking downfield to hit the big plays. Joe Burrow
Gee, but your example of Jalen Hurts is wrong because they didn't stop Jalen Hurts.
Oh, they
didn't
stopped
need to.
The Eagles' running game besides him didn't do well.
And that's why
that
they
has
lost.
nothing to do with a cheat code on Jalen Hurts.
So
That's why they lost.
Watch this. When you talk about Jalen Hurts, what's the one when you put the ball in your quarterback's hands and he's running around a lot?
Yeah.
There's two things that happen. You put him in harm's way, and there's turnovers that can happen. The biggest turnover of the game.
Yeah.
It was the biggest play of the game.
That one play, sure. He
the
had a
biggest play
bad
of the
play.
game.
Who played better in the Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts or Patrick Mahomes?
Is it an individual game or a team game?
I just said that Lamar Jackson doesn't have talent around him. You said, let's not talk about around him. Let's just talk about individual.
We're talking.
Who played better? Who played better?
I'll take
played
Mahomes.
better?
Mahomes. I'll
Who
take
played
Mahomes.
better in the Super Bowl?
Mahomes.
No, he didn't.
He was
It wasn't
the MVP.
close.
He was the MVP. Yes or no? Did his team win the game? Yes or no?
Yes, but
Okay, thank
you
you.
didn't answer my question.
Oh, okay. Then give me Jalen Hurts in the L.
Did
You kidding me?
Mahomes?
So you think Mahomes played better in the Super Bowl than Jalen Hurts?
Did Mahomes have a turnover?
1,000% I do. Yes.
Wow, I don't even think it was close.
You know the deep ball, the deep ball that Hurts threw down the field that ended up being a touchdown.
Right.
Was a terribly thrown ball.
So
Terribly.
now we're going to analyze every throw and who threw each individual throw better?
No, what I'm going to say to you, though,
What you're going to say is you've turned that's a team argument. But when I said Lamar Jackson's got no talent around him, you're saying, well, the talent around him doesn't matter. Let's look at individual.
Okay, finish. That's not a team argument. That's an individual player that threw a poor ball.
Okay, but the Chiefs didn't find a cheat code to stop Jalen Hurts. The Eagles lost that game because of their defense.
Okay, now that you've said that, let me say this.
Yeah.
They had decided coming into the game, it's a pick your poison thing. It's a Bill Belichick thing. What's their best chance of beating us? And I had said before the game, and I think most of the experts had said before the game, the reason a lot of people thought the Eagles would win the game was because their run game was so good. And Andy Reid made the conscious decision before the game. We can give the opportunity to Hurts to beat us, but we don't think he can. So we're going to do everything we can to take away
See, I don't
their
believe
kryptonite.
any of that. Eagles lost for one reason. Their defense sucked. That's the only reason they lost.
So them not being able to run the ball had nothing to do with them losing?
35 points, Jay.
Wasn't enough, was it?
So let me give y'all can I give you this?
Because
enough.
of the
One second.
defense.
One second. Speaking of cheat code.
What do you
you're
mean no?
You're wrong.
How
Speaking
many
of cheat
times do you
codes.
win a Super Bowl with 35 points?
Yellow
Speaking of cheat
card.
codes.
How many times do you win a Super Bowl with 35 points?
The
Almost
12 o'clock hour
Not
of
this
Ultimate
time.
Cleveland
Because
Sports
of
Show is
the
sponsored by Call It
defense.
Racing. Call It Racing, your Deer Freeze, Ohio
Help
NASCAR
these
team.
people. They're
Get
embarrassing
back at it.
themselves over here.
Now hold on. Pause.
Yeah.
Yes.
Before y'all get to it.
Yeah.
Now look, Bull. Your premise is
Yeah.
Wrong.
that Jalen Hurts.
Played better than Mahomes. Everybody knows
That's
that.
He did.
unequivocally false.
It's
Yes, it's
1,000% false.
Hold on. Let me,
You're embarrassing yourself.
Hold on,
Jalen
Jalen Hurts played better.
Hold on. No. Let me give it to you.
Jalen Hurts played way better. Go
Let
ahead.
me give it to y'all.
Yeah.
Spit facts, brother.
Patrick Mahomes, 21 to 27,
Okay.
182, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, no sacks, QBR of 96.4.
No fumbles.
No fumbles.
Yeah.
When you go to Jalen Hurts, when you get to Jalen Hurts' stats,
Yeah.
and you look at it, he had 304 yards
Yeah, it's 100 and something.
Oftentimes, the losing quarterback does have more.
because
That's
he's
a
coming
bad
from
argument
behind.
because it was a
No.
neck and neck game the
There
whole
was no
way.
garbage
Give
time.
the
No,
other
There was no
stats.
garbage
Hold on,
time.
Listen,
let
give
me-
the other
you
stats.
you
Let me
said
give
something
it
that
to
doesn't is not appropriate.
Give the other
Go ahead.
stats.
Let me get to
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts here.
Yeah.
He had 304 passing yards and 4 total touchdowns and a 2-point conversion.
Yeah.
And a
Exactly.
fumble that cost
And
the game.
the fumble was costly.
Oh,
yes.
but we're not going to talk about that.
Of course we're going to talk about it. You brought it up 10 times. I've acknowledged it.
It's
and
huge.
Jalen Hurts still
And
played a better game than
for
Patrick
a
Mahomes.
touchdown. So what I'm saying to you is,
Yeah.
if you paying Patrick Mahomes, you have to be perfect. He was not perfect.
I didn't say he was perfect. I said he was better than Patrick
He
Mahomes.
was not.
Patrick Mahomes wasn't
because
perfect.
Patrick Mahomes didn't turn the football over, and the costly turnover cost him that game.
So
it
if
was
you-
certainly a big factor in the game,
So if
no
you
doubt.
if you give the Chiefs that fumble touchdown,
If.
no. But I'm saying if you give it to them and add it to Mahomes' stats, Mahomes had 4 touchdowns, Hurts had 4 touchdowns, right there.
Okay.
And then
The Eagles lost because their defense sucked.
yes,
If you give
What
us,
were
especially
their
in the
running
second
numbers?
half.
What were their running numbers?
if you look up, let's take
Irrelevant.
Irrelevant.
The initial question was there's a cheat code to stop Lamar Jackson. I said, I don't believe that yet. We got to see.
Yeah.
And I said, Jalen Hurts, who has a similar style of play, there was no cheat code to stop him. And you said in a game they scored 35 points and he played great besides one play, you said there was a cheat code.
Other than that,
So-
Mrs. Lincoln, how did you enjoy the play?
So, Jay, one turnover means you didn't play a great game.
One turnover that cost them the game?
Well, first of all, we don't know for sure it
it was
cost
in
him
the
the game.
first half.
It was obviously a critical play that may have cost him the game.
What was the final score?
Are you saying he didn't play a great game besides that?
I've never said that. I will never say that he didn't play a
Well,
great
then
game.
why are you arguing with me when I'm saying he played a great game? There was no cheat code. They didn't stop him.
Bull, I didn't tell you that he didn't play a great game.
He played better than Mahomes.
I disagree with that premise. So if you're going to say you want Mahomes or who do you want going forward? Who are you going to take?
Mahomes.
Why?
That's a silly question.
Now watch. You're going to make my case for me
No, I'm
right
not
now.
gonna make a case.
Why do you want him?
He's the best
He's a
quarterback
better
in football.
quarterback.
Why?
What do you mean why? He's better. He's better than everybody.
Oh, so there's no reason he's better. He's just better.
Yeah, what reason do you want to give me? It's pretty obvious. Do I have to give any reasons? He's a better player.
Right.
Okay.
And the reason the Chiefs won the Super Bowl is because he did what he does better than Jalen Hurts did what
Not
he
on that
does.
day. He didn't.
And the other thing is, I know you're trying to dismiss the
And by
fact
the way,
that they,
if you're saying the reason they lost the game is because of that
run
turnover, then the
been
reason they
running
won the
Super Bowl
game is
sets.
not because of Mahomes.
the run game, to ignore the run game would be to miss the forest through the trees.
I'm
Andy
talking about
Reid-
Jay. We're not talking about who the better team was. We were arguing about whether or not Jalen Hurts. There's a cheat code, and your argument was the Super Bowl proved there was a Jalen Hurts cheat code,
For
which
starters,
is obviously a
for
ridiculous
starters,
take.
You took
Everybody
it to
would know
Jalen
that.
Hurts. We were talking about Lamar Jackson.
I know, but Jalen
You
Hurts
took
is the
it to
same
Jalen-
style
no,
of
he's
game.
Not.
Yes,
no,
he
he's not.
does.
He's not the same player as Lamar Jackson.
I didn't say he's the same player. I said he's the same style of
Okay,
player.
well, so is Mahomes.
No, he's not.
Why not?
Because he's not running for 1,000 yards.
He can run it when he needs to.
But
All
he's
right.
not the same style of player. Hurts and Lamar are
give me the
similar
run
type of
Run
players.
stats, Miles Sanders has 7 carries, 16 yards.
What
does that have to do with
Kenneth
anything?
Gainwell,
They became
7 carries,
one-dimensional.
21 yards.
They still scored 35. If I would have told you going into the Super Bowl the Eagles were going to score 35 points, would you have said that was enough to win?
Nope.
Oh, baloney.
They're playing the Chiefs.
Baloney.
They're playing the Kansas City Chiefs.
No chance you would have said the Chiefs are going to win if I told you they would score 35 points.
Who'd they play?
The Chiefs.
What do they do?
They don't score. They don't average over 35 points a game.
What do they do, Bull?
They don't average over 35 points a game.
They score points.
They don't average
score
over 35.
Whatever.
Do they average over 35?
Whatever
No.
the point number
No.
is they need to score.
No.
They score.
No, they don't.
Bull.
They
the
led,
fact of
they led
matter
the
is-
NFL in points this year.
I don't know
They
how.
lost. I hate to tell you they lost, and your guy did not play better than the MVP.
I don't know how we got on.
bad.
I don't know how we got on Jalen Hurts.
I do.
I don't know how we got on whatever. The
You
case.
did. You the reason why.
No, no. We were talking about Lamar Jackson.
I said Jim.
You brought up Colin Kaepernick from like 10 years ago. What does that have to do with anything?
Yeah, but what I was saying was
At least I'm bringing up a relevant
there
example.
was a time when the running quarterback was a bigger asset.
No, it wasn't.
Yes.
You brought up one guy, Colin Kaepernick. Who else? Michael Vick was 20 years ago.
RG3, same thing.
Okay.
He was when his rookie
And he got
year,
hurt. He
People
was great.
forget how good he was.
He was
his
great.
rookie
And then
year.
he got hurt, and his career was shot.
Correct.
Yeah.
But through the years, the defensive coordinators have tried to figure out what are we going to do because this is the trend.
Yeah.
And it is the wave, by the way. Look at the way college is played. Look at the way they're developing quarterbacks in college.
Athletic quarterbacks.
That's what they're bringing.
Yes.
The defensive coordinators wisely said, we got to figure out how to stop
And-
this.
and what I'm talking
and what I said was, when I heard your
When you heard-
description,
we talk about high level. We
the
talk
light
about,
went off for me. That's it.
I brought up that Jim Schwartz was doing something that I never heard somebody say, right?
Yeah.
And it was a high level conversation about the way defensive coordinators go about game planning specific quarterbacks. And so when you hear things as a defensive end, and you always have contain, you rush this point, rush integrity. All those things are ingrained. But I thought it was fascinating that he came at it a different approach.
He changed the wheel.
He said, look, it's not about rushing to a point or a regular scheme. It's all about where we think he's going to be at on
Right.
the field. And sometimes when you look on the field and there are players running for yards, say Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson for 80 yards, if those guys aren't scoring touchdowns with that, in the long play, the long game, they love that.
Make him do it 8 times.
Do it again, 8 yards.
Yep.
Do it again, 10 yards. Because it puts you in you can turn the ball over. It gets your quarterback hit. and you still
Potentially hurt.
minimize the amount of possessions in a game.
But when you brought up
think
that point originally, did it have to do with running quarterback specifically, or just in general?
What he was saying was
Yeah.
that they're getting the ball. They're getting the key is getting sacks and pressure. If they're throwing the ball quickly, you can't get pressure.
Right.
If the quarterback's running, you're not getting pressure. He's trying to figure out the best way to affect the quarterback to get pressure.
I can sum up what G. Bush is saying before we pivot to some memberships in baseball.
Yeah.
Jim Schwartz looks at rushing the passer a different way than most defensive coordinators.
Yes, and that's-
Jim Schwartz was not the defensive coordinator for the Eagles in the Super Bowl, nor was he the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs. So Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, who was better in the Super Bowl, is
easy.
in the circle of where we were at. But we got off topic with G. Earl, you got to read.
There it is.
Well, that was
nice.
fun. So we
What's
asked
the name
the
of that
internet, and every time we ask the internet, that's
I'ma
presented
send
to
you-
you
it's
by
a
PCC
seminar.
Airfoil.
He wrote a
PCC.
seminar.
Looking for a
I'ma
job
send
with
you.
career advancement and great
I'll send it all
benefits? PCC Airfoil is our leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. And all locations of PCC Airfoil in Eastlake, Menor, Whitcliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 an hour and up. Plus, get a full benefit package, paid time off, and sign-up bonus. Apply online at precast.com careers to learn more. So the poll question was, who was right? And we had three options: Bull, Jay, or why is everyone yelling at me?
Well, right about what specifically?
Like,
Right about what specifically? About who I was better in the Super Bowl? Or just the whole argument?
I
in
didn't put the
general?
poll up. Anthony put the poll up. I was
Okay.
trying to keep the table.
who was right in general, right? Like,
Everyone, why is everyone is yelling at me was 38%. Now, G, I'm going to yell at you if you don't tell the fans why they should become a member of UCSS.
hey, man, listen, man. Well, first and foremost, you got to become a member of UCSS because you don't get no conversations like that. We go off the top of our head. But plus, you know what we got, man. The 199 tier, you get your loyalty badges, the custom emoji badges. I need some more badges. We need to come up with a plan to get me some more emojis, man, because you know that's the most favorite emoji in the chat. Shout out to the chat. Members only community posts, we do that as well. And I always check in with y'all as well. And then we got that big tier, the big money, $4.99. That's for the big spenders. And you know what? You get all the starter tier perks, overtime videos, member shout outs. We've been doing overtime. Sometimes our overtime is better than our last 15 minutes of the regular show. I ain't want to tell nobody, but check in and
And
get that.
on Monday for the Celtics-Cavs rematch, which
Right.
should be a monumental game for Cleveland. They need to prove that beatdown on Wednesday wasn't a fluke. Jason will be texting with Coaches Tier members.
Right.
You can sign up. We'll send out that link again on the Community Coaches tab
Hopefully
page
the
on
Cavs
YouTube.
will play better this
Hopefully the Cavs will play better, but Jason is always awesome when he does that. Brings
That's
a ton
dope.
of insight to the fans. You get to interact with him.
And then,
It's a lot
Who
of
thinks
fun,
the
too.
Cavs will win Monday?
I do.
is it at home?
Yeah.
It's at home, yeah.
They better. Because they're looking.
Boston's playing really,
Let's see how
really
they play
good.
against Detroit tonight.
They're looking. They got to get
Tomorrow.
that.
That's a win.
That better be a win.
Oh, tomorrow, yeah.
That's
you're
a
right.
win.
That better be a
but
win.
the Celtics are going to get it. They have our number.
That
see.
better
They're
be
just
a
a
win.
better team.
They're a better team. We'll see if they have our number. It'll be. They gotta find someone to play a little defense.
Hey, are we doing that thing? What's the one thing we doing where we try to find a piece for the old Browns or we doing that?
I think we're gonna save that because we got to do
No,
a
we're
little
going to say
baseball.
that because y'all was out here
Are we
fussing
skipping the
at
Cavs topic?
Yeah, skip the
let's
Cavs.
skip
We'll
that.
get back. We'll get back to
But
that.
the next
go
topic
ahead.
is pretty good.
We'll do that
So
Monday.
before we get to Zack Meisel at 12:30,
Yeah.
I saw a list on a certain network, and Bull said bad job out of me. So I
It
went
was
to
a bad job out of you.
MLB.com.
I didn't even know. Where did you see that list?
Especially because it was from some slappy nobody ever heard of.
Well,
It
I mean,
really had
I was
nothing to
on
do
the,
with the
I saw it
company.
on Odyssey.com.
By the way, that list wasn't vastly different from MLB.com's list.
No, it wasn't at all.
It was extremely because there's really not a lot of variance when you get into the top
Yeah, that's
30. We all know who they are. It's just a matter of how you rank them.
Yeah. So, Earl, you got the list?
Can't hear you.
No, so now I was
Yeah.
just trying to. I'm sorry, I
Good.
got thrown off.
That's all right.
So the question is, who's
It
the better
happens
player,
sometimes.
Francisco Lindor or Jose Ramirez?
It's not even close. at
It's
this
not
point.
even close.
It's not.
When you sent that, I'm like, is anybody going to say Frankie?
Does anybody want to make an argument? for
I'll
Frankie?
try to make the argument.
I mean,
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, when did I think Jose is better? But when did Jose become better than him? Because I thought at the time Frankie was
Well,
better.
it's interesting.
And then
Frankie's arc was higher at one point.
and then he caught him, and then it was over.
And he passed him.
Yep.
The thing with when they first both came up, like Lindor was a superstar prospect, and Ramirez wasn't even a prospect.
No.
Was
Well,
not even a prospect.
Nobody expected him to be this guy.
No,
you know?
not. You thought he. And when he first came
Nobody.
up and I first saw him play, I was like, oh, he's a nice player. I didn't expect him to be. Nobody did.
I thought he was too small.
There is
to be
nobody.
honest.
Mike Chernoff, Chris Anthony, none of them thought he'd be this.
Nope.
Not.
Same
But
with Oscar Gonzalez. Not that he's reached that status, but
Right.
Oscar Gonzalez was like,
was
oh
a
yeah,
shocker.
he's
Well,
a guy.
Yes,
That's
but
it.
now, I mean, I would say since what year is this? 23. I would say since at least 2019, probably. That Jose's
About
past him.
2019.
So
Could I make the? I think Jose's
ahead.
better, but could I make the case for Lindor?
You can
just
try.
just to try, just to present
Yeah.
both sides
yeah,
for their careers.
yeah,
Jose's played 2 more seasons,
yep.
or really a season and a half. He only played half of his first season, but for their careers, Jose's numbers are a 279 batting average, 192 RBIs, 192 home runs, 666 RBIs, which we have to do something about. That's not a good number for him to be sitting on for RBIs.
So much better, many better stats than that, but okay.
I'm just giving you the base.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get to the analytics in a sec. And at a .857 OPS, Lindor has played 2 fewer, or a season and a half fewer.
Yeah.
277 batting average, 184 home runs, 581 RBIs, and a .816 OPS in a more premier position at shortstop, where defensively the difference does make a little bit of difference. And defensively, in career WAR, Lindor's double Jose plus some. He's at 10.4.
Well,
Jose at a 5.4.
that's apples
Just
to oranges.
defensive WAR.
That's apples to
I
oranges.
know.
though.
Once again,
I think defensive
I'm
WAR is
just-
completely flawed.
I
Really?
do too,
Of all the
and
defensive
especially
analysts
when
you
you're
like?
comparing a shortstop to a third baseman.
Yeah, I don't
Like-
love defensive WAR at all.
So what that tells you is the gap between Frankie and all the other shortstops is greater than it is between Ramirez and all the other third basemen. But I think they're more. I think we found this when we ranked the third baseman. They're all kind of right there.
they're the same.
Where
Yeah.
Frankie is an elite shortstop, I'll give you that. But I just look at the whole package. I look at the intangibles, leadership.
Listen, I'm not picking Jose. I mean, I'm picking Jose. I'm not picking
Yeah.
Lindor. I'm just
I
giving
don't
you the
even-
case to make.
yeah, and if you look at career numbers too, early in their careers, Lindor was better than Ramirez in the first couple of years. And so if you look at their stat, I bet you if you just looked up their stats since like 2019 or 2018, Ramirez is way better
Well,
than
Lindor took a dive after his first
He-
year with the Mets was abysmal.
Right.
There
was
was a
terrible
stretch.
that year.
Now he did pick it up late in the year. He got
Right.
hot in
But the
August,
first
and
half he
September.
was particularly hot.
Even after the All-Star break, I looked at his numbers, and his numbers were he was hitting like 220
He
with
finished the
single-digit home runs.
He finished the season 270 batting average, 26 home runs, 107
Got
RBIs.
red hot. Look at his
towards the end,
August and September.
No, it was 2 different
But
seasons.
I still think the difference between the two, it's the intangibles.
I agree.
just think that Jose Ramirez is a guy who collectively makes everybody on the team better by the way he goes about his job, his effort. Both are top step of the dugout guys. I think you'd agree with that.
Yeah, I think Lindor's good intangibles
And
too.
so he's good in that area, but I just think for my money, I look at what it would have cost to keep Frankie in Cleveland. And now he got the hometown discount. He gave
the
them,
best deal in baseball.
It's the best deal in baseball, and you can make an
Maybe the
argument
best
it's
deal
the
in
best
sports.
deal in pro sports.
It's the best deal in baseball of guys who could have been free agents.
But of guys who've
Yeah,
actually
there's
signed
guys-
a long-term deal.
There's guys who signed long-term deals pre-arbitration. who
No,
are
yeah, those
better.
don't count.
Yeah.
Those don't count. What
Yeah.
Ramirez did was what was the number? 100 million?
147 for 140
No,
or something like that.
the estimate was he left $100 million.
Oh, yeah,
on
at
the table.
least.
absolutely.
Like
At least.
nobody
Machado
does
just
that.
got 350.
Frankie, and to be perfectly honest, I know that some think Machado is better, but I see him every day, and I'm probably biased, but
Yeah.
I would take
But
Jose.
they're-
And even if you think he's better, he's
Machado-
not $200 million.
Machado's
better.
a better defender than Jose is, but
Wait, he's not.
you sure about that?
Wait, what did you say?
That Machado's a better defender than Jose.
I don't know that he is.
He wasn't by the.
He
I
wasn't.
don't think he
advanced
is. I
analytics,
think
It
no.
I
wasn't
think
this
we're-
past year.
That's why I
I
put
gotta
Jose
tell you,
above him in our
Ramirez
ratings.
for his size,
Yeah.
when you stand next to him, you're like, wow, how does he
He's
cover
not a
as
big
much
dude.
range? No,
He's a
But
good defender.
He gets to
but
everything.
it doesn't even matter. Even if you do argue that, I actually think Jose overall is a little better than Machado.
I do too.
I think it's. But even if you say they're tied, or even if you say Machado's a little better, he's making way more money.
He's probably
Not even close.
top 5 highest paid
And
players.
Jose's only missed. I know he was injured last year, and that affected his play.
Yeah.
But he's only missed due to injury a significant amount of time once in his career, whereas Machado has had that.
I'll
few
turn
times.
the injury last year into a positive, okay? Most players in Jose's case last
out.
year,
Right.
they're done. They get the surgery. They're
Right.
done. He needed the surgery when the injury happened.
Yes.
He knew that a 70% Jose Ramirez might get the Guardians into the playoffs, and who knows once we get there what can happen. He is selfless as a player and as a person. So when most guys hear that they've got a cracked bone in their thumb, they're like, well, let's fix it. He didn't do that. He played through it, and I know it's not good that he got hurt. Injuries happen. It's not like he's injury prone. But what I loved about how he handled the injury last year was we didn't even know it. We didn't know how bad it was. We knew something was wrong.
Yeah, he wasn't playing as well.
He wasn't playing as well, and we knew that they kept him out a couple games, and we knew he was nursing it. But as soon as the season was over, what do we hear? Ramirez is going in for surgery.
Yeah, Ramirez is top of the line in terms of intangibles. I actually think Fransico Lindor is very good in terms of intangibles, too. I think he's a good leader, too. He's just not as good as Ramirez. They're both excellent players. I'd love to have Lindor still on this team. But that trade, even though we can get into an argument over spending money, but in the end, the Guardians made a fantastic trade. They got two really good players out of it.
I look at it like this. It's kind of fascinating because when you look at Fransico Lindor, you don't even really you don't hear his name.
Well, we don't hear it here. He gets a lot of talk in baseball circles.
Well, no, I mean, you don't hear, like, for players being as good as he was.
And he was popular. He was the most popular player when he was here.
Most popular. It's almost like we don't, like in retrospect, I don't want to say show him any love, but it's almost like we don't mention his name anymore.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of stricken for the record.
Well, because, and you don't, we're not hating on him because the guys he got have been great.
Right. So it's just like awesome. He just disappeared. Like, so it is hard because before, a player like Tony, people was like, man, people like Cliff Lee, people like CeCe Sabathia, those guys, people were upset when they left. Fransico was different. Didn't he get moved during COVID?
No.
Or was it prior to it? 19?
Yeah, no.
No, he was still here for the COVID season, which was short.
Yeah.
His numbers were terrible.
He got traded after the COVID
His numbers, remember, and that was the other thing that to me, I know there was a big debate, should we keep him? I was never in the camp of even considering keeping Frankie Lindor, ever. I knew there was no way. I knew he was going to command way more money than this market would allow this team to spend on one player.
Now, do you feel like there's a price limit for any player?
I know it when I see it. The $30 million a year for one player, this organization can't do that.
So it's case to case. Like but you would do it for some people.
I would, but I'll give you example after example of teams in similar size markets that tried it and it failed miserably.
Right.
It's hard to build a baseball team around one player.
It's just
very hard.
Yeah.
Listen, the bottom line to me is they could spend it. They're not going to, but that doesn't matter. In general, forget small market.
They could have.
In general, when you spend huge, when you spend huge money on a player, it usually doesn't work out. Whether you're a big market, now the big market team can deal with that failed contract, but either way, 80% of big contracts fail for the team.
So your point about big markets are more equipped to deal with it, the Yankees just write checks to buy their way out of those holes. And they've done it too. They've signed $30 million a year players that did not work out.
A lot of them.
A lot of them.
And,
you can look at the Dodgers. The Dodgers, I think, have a better track record on big money spends than the Yankees.
The Red Sox have been terrible with it, too.
The Red Sox have had recently some terrible misses.
Ones, yep.
Those markets can do that. They can afford to do that. And we can argue all day whether or not the Dolans could spend more money. Of course they could. What I admire most about them is their fiscal responsibility. So could they have written that check? Yes, they absolutely could have written that check. But they're going to constantly be chasing what the Tigers were chasing for the last decade after they signed Miggy. That was a death knell for them.
I would argue, though, that the Guardians have a so much better front office.
They do.
However, in the end, they made such a good trade, and that it didn't matter. It ultimately didn't matter that they didn't sign Lindor because they made such a good trade. They didn't need him.
And that was part of my rationale of why they didn't have to sign him.
Right.
Why would you do that?
But it's still frustrating for fans, Jay, that none of their best players stay.
Ramirez
now, Jose is going to, but most of the great players gone. And now one of the guys you got in that trade, Rosario, this is probably his last year on the team.
Well, they got Jimenez.
No, I know that, but eventually he's probably going to go too.
I'm a different line of thinking than you are. I'm thinking they're going to eventually see the value in Rosario. They're going to keep him.
Where
hope.
are they going to play him, though?
It's my hope.
I think the better hope is
We'll
they
see.
can lock up Jimenez now.
We'll see. But when I hear stories like I've heard from guys that are around the team every day, how much Tito loves him and how much he appreciates what he brings to the clubhouse.
Yeah.
It's easy to discard a guy. Like, I know that Landry's talent was going down, but at some point the question should have been asked, is it worth to keep him around for his personality, what he brings to the team in other areas? Everybody credited him for turning the tide here with mentality.
It's the Nick Chubb concept, right? It's the
Nick Chubb is productive.
Except Nick Chubb's good and Jarvis Landry's finished.
But at some point, you're not going to, well, even at this point, Nick Chubb's worth to the Browns is more than on the open market.
Yes.
So,
yes, absolutely.
So even if as he diminishes it almost, I'll come into Miami Heat. Udonis Haslem is on the bench.
Right.
They keep cutting him checks. You know why?
Yeah.
Because he
serves
a purpose.
And that's why the talk
purpose.
of trading Nick Chubb is laughable because you're not getting a huge.
No.
He's worth so much more than you would get from a trade. But circling back to Rosario, thinking about Rosario, the only reason I think they do have a chance to keep him is because he's not a power hitter. He's not going to get a big contract. Ahmed Rosario's not getting $100 million plus.
Which is why I think we should.
So
keep
they
him.
could sign him.
And I think we should.
I think if you offered him, I can't think. I'm trying to think how old
What was the number?
he is.
Do we have the Rosario?
There was no Rosario.
There was no
for
Rosario.
He wasn't in Rosario, no.
I think Rosario,
would've.
you're looking at like 4 years, like an Encarnacion type of deal.
And to me, I think that's a good spend.
and maybe maybe
they've
it's more
got
than
some
that.
other minority owners now that can help defray some of that expense.
I think an example for the Rosario deal may be similar to what Andrew Benintendi just signed with the White Sox, which I think was like 5 for $75.
And I think he's the same kind of
Same
obviously
level of
different,
player.
but he fits the same role.
Not a lot of power, good at getting
Right.
on base.
Go ahead. You got to do a read.
Our 12 o'clock hour
Yeah.
is brought to you by Carlick Racing. Carlick Racing, your Northeast Ohio NASCAR team, and we welcome in Zack Meisel to the conversation.
What's up,
Go
Zach?
ahead, McNuggets.
Hey, Zach, before we bring you in, we are so happy to have you with us.
Yes,
But
Zach.
shout out to the chat, by the way. We had Shield NA, Phil Bowman, and Derek Parslow gift other people memberships today.
Look at that.
We have gifted
We love
7 memberships. Shield did 5 himself.
Is that like you pay it forward at the Starbucks
Pay for
line?
Starbucks. Yep.
All
so
right.
shout out to those guys.
Wow.
We love you guys. Thank
Zach,
you. Y'all are the
well
best.
done.
What's up, Zach?
By the way, Zach. So Zach is my buddy and I bought tickets today for the Lake County Captains game that you are featured at. Tell these guys, because they might not know about this, Zach, why you're going to be, I don't know what you're doing exactly there, but why you're going to be performing or at being honored a Lake County Captains game this year. Explain it to these guys.
Oh, I should probably know the date offhand. I want to say it's
I think it's in June, right? June 16th. June 16th.
Friday of Father's Day weekend, I think.
Yeah.
How did you know what he doesn't
Because
know
we
it?
just bought tickets, my friend and
okay.
I.
Okay.
So it's going to be random jersey night at Classic Park, and so they're encouraging everyone wear your Trent Dilfer Browns jersey, wear your Wesley Person Cavs jersey, whatever you can dig out of the closet or maybe find on eBay. But the more random, the better, and that's kind of my shtick on Twitter. So I guess I'm going to be judging people. I don't know. We haven't hammered out the full details yet, but it should be fun.
What
But
jersey are you
Bull
wear,
has
Bull?
a Baker Mayfield jersey. Does that count?
I have a Derek Anderson. I don't know if that's random because he was really good that year.
You got to wear the Baker.
I'm gonna have to buy a new one. No, not Baker. Baker's not random. I'm gonna get an old school. I gotta find somehow a random Indians jersey that I'm gonna go buy. between
Jerry
now and then.
Dibzinski.
Yeah, like a Jerry Dibzinski. There you
No.
go. But Zach
The
does this
Dibber.
on Twitter all the time.
Give
And
me
he's
that
really
Corey
good.
Schneider boy.
No, but
28.
again, Corey Snyder's not random. He's too good
Yeah.
to be banned.
It would be
when
somebody-
Zach tweets out pictures. He does this. He tweets out pictures like it's got to be some schlub who played like 13 games for the
You
Guardians.
didn't even know that player sold jerseys.
Right,
in
you're like,
Cleveland.
who is that? The guys you tweet out, most general Cleveland sports fans would probably not even know who that player was.
So the first one we had here in Arizona this year was Mark Zepchinski, which,
Yeah.
okay, I
Yeah.
think people remember that
recent.
name because
Yeah.
it's so long and has not enough vowels. But this jersey, he pitched in Cleveland from 2013 to 15. But this particular jersey was from when he came back in 2018,
Oh,
and he pitched
wow.
2 innings. He used that jersey for 2 innings, and this person had the jersey. So we're looking for that degree
That's right.
of randomness.
That is impressive.
That is
Who was the
really-
guy? I can't think of his name now. Who was the guy who pitched the playoff game against the Blue Jays for the Indians in 16? Left-handed
Ryan
pitchers.
Merritt.
Ryan Merritt.
Merritt. Oh my God.
That would be random.
Wow.
Ryan Merritt. I mean, it was.
I don't think we've seen one.
No, I might have to get a Ryan.
bet you don't.
I have to find one. I have to impress Zach.
Zach, what is the
there you
most
go.
random jersey you have come across, though? Like, what is number one on your list of most random jerseys?
So it's when you think about the criteria, it's you want someone who didn't play for very long. I think the older the better, but you don't want it to be too old because you want people to say, oh yeah, I vaguely remember that person. So I do a top 25 list at the end of every season. And every year I think, man, we're going to run out. We've seen everybody. And fans blow me away and they give me enough material to use. So I'm trying to think like,
Oh man.
Who was number
the
one last
best
year?
are like that utility infielder who played like 7 games in 1999. Like
Yes.
somehow someone has his jersey. So one of the more fun ones was 2 years ago, Cleveland traded Eddie Rosario at the deadline. And to make the salaries work, the Braves sent back Pablo Sandoval.
Oh yeah, right.
He never even came to Cleveland. He was released like 3 hours later, but someone went and customized Pablo Sandoval
Well,
number
they did
48.
that just for you. They did it just for you.
That's the
Zach.
best. That is the. I don't know if that can be topped.
No, that is
No.
He never wore a Cleveland uniform.
the Kung Fu Panda in Cleveland.
mean,
I
that
had
was
no idea he
amazing.
even came to
He
Cleveland.
didn't.
Oh, my God.
He just
No,
wrote
no,
No, but I had no
on
idea he
paper
was
for 3 hours.
technically an Indian.
That's fantastic.
All right, Zach, we were just having this conversation. I don't know if you heard the end of the conversation. We were talking about the possibility of re-signing Rosario. I assume he's going to be gone after this year, but I said to Jay, okay, because he thinks they may sign him. I said, well, maybe, because he's not going to make huge money like Ramirez or certainly like Lindor. I said maybe 4 years, 65 for 75. Am I way off on his value? Am I underselling him, or is he in that range? And is it
No, I think
possible the Guardians would do it?
I think the thing working in his favor is this class of free agent shortstops this winter is the opposite of the one we just saw. So you had Trey Turner, Carlos Correa,
That's
Xander
interesting. I
Bogaerts
didn't think
landing
about that.
huge deals. There's nobody. Rosario is
So he'll be the
head of the class
valedictorian.
this winter.
Yeah.
So I think of someone like Didi Gregorius. I think he got 4 years, 72 million maybe with the Phillies a few years ago. Something like that probably makes sense just because of the market. You know, if it was a better shortstop market, maybe it drives down his price a little. I think the odds are against something happening in Cleveland, mostly because they need to still figure out what to do with all these middle infield prospects. You know, Gabriel Arias needs opportunities, Tyler Freeman, Brian Rocchio, Angel Martinez. So you either have to trade the kids and sign Rosario, or you have to let Rosario walk and then let the kids play.
Is it a situation where we'll get to find out? I mean, there's probably a lot of at-bats available in spring training. Are we going to see some of these kids so we can see if one of them can separate from the group as a potential replacement to Rosario if they let him walk?
That's the struggle. Is Rosario's been so consistent in his career that odds are he's going to do what he always does: hit 280, steal some bases, play every single day. So
See, that's why
they're struggling with
right
that.
in front of us. I think he's
Yeah,
the
you're
answer.
struggling with that decision because Rosario, Jimenez, those guys play every day. So how many at-bats are there really for Gabriel Arias? That's why he and Tyler Freeman are working in the outfield. But this is a dilemma they've been facing for a couple years now, and they know they need to make a trade at some point, consolidate some of these prospects because they're all bubbling up. They're all in AA, AAA, ready for the majors. But there's only 2 starting spots in the middle infield. Jose Ramirez is going to be your third baseman for a long time. So where do you play these kids? How do you learn about them while also not sacrificing production in the short term because you're trying to win?
How old is Rosario?
27,
I
28?
would guess 26 or 7.
I think he's 20. He's 26 or 27. I don't know
Yeah.
what his birthday is.
See, I know that sometimes we get enamored by 21, 22, 23, but a lot of times in baseball, those guys never percolate. They never develop. And because we've got a guy, I think first of all, I think strength is up the middle. And I want to think long term. Let's solidify that with guys like Zach just said. He's a known commodity. We know what he's going to give us. We don't know what the kids are. I would just rather stay with the guy that you know and lock him up. I know it's not the Guardians' way.
Yeah. and trade the kids for pitching.
Yes.
Yeah,
Zach,
that's what I was
this
gonna say.
whole
Package them up and get a pitcher.
Mike, I know you want to jump in, but since we got this whole, as you know, I've been screaming about trying to trade for Brian Reynolds for a couple of months, but now I've changed my mind. I look at the Guardians rotation, and I think about a potential playoff rotation, and I would rather them have somebody that's not here be their third starter. I don't trust Plesac. I don't trust Savali. I'm fine with Quantrill as your 4. We know you're good at 1 and 2. I think they should, whether it's now or more likely the trade deadline, I think I've changed my mind. Now, I know they have Daniel Espino, even though he's hurt, and Bibby, or however you pronounce his name, but I think I like the idea of trading for a good young pitcher who maybe has 2 or 3 years of control and trading some of these young prospects. What do you see that as a possibility this season at some point?
I think it's difficult to forecast what the team might need and who might be available on the market come July, but I think that's probably the most likely scenario. I think, Jay, to your point, Ahmed Rosario was a top 3 prospect in baseball. So if Gabriel Arias gives you what Rosario has given you, you're probably thrilled. But
yeah, you are, but you can't project that.
Right, but that's his point.
And
he's agreeing with you.
I get it. I get it.
I think what makes it tough is if this was a situation like Cincinnati or Oakland, you let the kids play, take their lumps, and you'd be fine with that. And then once they're ready to be good players, you figure you're probably contending. But this team's already there. They sped up the process almost too quick. Obviously, you want to win when you can win, but it's just made for some challenges here. And I think they're going to get to a point where, we've already seen it. They trade Nolan Jones for a younger prospect to kick the can down the road. They've done that with some other guys, and you're going to have to keep doing that. Or the other option, consolidate some prospects, which they've done in the past. They did it in 2016, and they're going to have to make another move like that this year. I think we'll have a better grasp for what their needs are in June and July. But you're right, Bull. I think rotation makes sense because, you had Quantrill facing Garrett Cole twice in a 5-game series. That's not going to work out for you most of the time. So they need another starting pitcher to help bridge the gap too, because you've got these 3 really good starting pitching prospects, but as Daniel Espino's shown you, injuries are always going to be a factor. That's right. And there's no guarantee there. And I don't know that those guys are going to help you this October. Right. You're more likely to sort of ease them into things next year and see where you go from there. But in terms of 2023, I'm guessing starting pitching is going to be what they need. And they don't need back of the rotation types. I think they need another horse that they can trust, like Bieber and McKenzie.
Yep.
Zach, this is my first full season of Guardians baseball in Cleveland. I moved here mid-April of last year, and we had Will Brennan on the show a couple weeks ago, and he was awesome. So he's now my favorite Guardian. So please, Zach, tell me why Will Brennan is going to be in the MVP race in 2023 here.
Well, why wouldn't he be?
How'd you guys settle on him? Because it's interesting. I don't think many people know much about him yet, and yet he might have the most colorful personality in the clubhouse. And I hope he gets a chance to showcase his skills this year, just so that people can kind of see that personality. He's hilarious. All he's ever done is hit. You look at his minor league numbers. Last year, I think he was hitting .311 at AA. They bumped him up to AAA, and he hit even better. Comes up in the major leagues and looks like a regular. And then he was saying that in Yankee Stadium in the playoffs, like, he couldn't feel his hands and his feet, and his heart was pounding out of his chest. And he's like, "How the hell did I get here? I was in AA a couple months ago." But he's just a genuine dude, and I think the reason why I think this team is in a good spot is if Oscar Gonzalez falters, if Miles Straw falters, you have Brennan there. They have contingency plans for most spots on the roster, and I think Brennan in the outfield, if they need him to get 400 at bats, I think he'd thrive.
I know it was a hypothetical, but you did say if Oscar Gonzalez struggles. And one of the things, obviously, that led the Guardians to all the success they had last year was they just kept – it's lightning in a bottle, but not when the Guardians do it. They just were bringing these guys up, and they were all contributing, and some of them became stars. Quan, obviously, Gonzalez seem to be here for the long haul now, but you know well about the sophomore slump. The league now has a full book on you. They know where the holes in your swing are. How concerned are you that one of these guys that was a big contributor last year, and you can start with Gonzalez and Quan and add anybody you want, are going to take steps back this year?
I think it depends on the skill set. So with Quan, he's elite at making contact and he has elite plate discipline. So like his floor is going to be pretty high regardless. And he showed last season. I mean, in May, he was dreadful for about 3 weeks and then didn't go into a slump again after that. So he showed he can make the adjustments. And, I think he's looking more at, if I have such good plate discipline and I'm at the plate and I'm working myself into a hitter's count, I can be more aggressive and maybe swing at pitches that I wasn't swinging at last season. So I think he's set up well to avoid that. Everybody I talk to says Gonzalez is like the biggest wild card or mystery on the team because he's so aggressive and that can get you into trouble. If he thinks he can hit every pitch, pitchers are not going to throw him strikes. So he's going to have to make adjustments to show a little more patience. But at the same time, you want him to be who he is, and you want him to flex that power that he's got. Because if they can get 30 homers from a right-handed outfielder, that's something that this team hasn't had in,
Huge.
I don't know, since Manny Ramirez. So,
Yeah, you're right.
So he could go either way. I mean, we've seen that skill set. Like Javi Baez is somewhat similar. And a few years ago, he was runner-up in the National League MVP voting. And last season, he was just pitiful for the Tigers. So you never know. It's all about sort of the skill set you have and how that helps you make adjustments once pitchers get a leg up on you. And I think it's different for everybody. And that's why it's tough to predict. And that's why I keep coming back to you need depth. You need plans in place for if someone falters.
Zach, let's talk about the unfortunate thing here, injuries. The Guardians bullpen obviously was great last year, basically across the board. Sam Hentges dealing with an injury. I can't remember now off the top of my head what it is. Okay, what's his status and what are we looking at timeline? Do we have anything yet?
Yeah, so they're reevaluating him week to week. He's got shoulder swelling and inflammation, which is just, I mean, that's not what you want to hear about any pitcher. I think, Jay, you dealt with that, right? So I think
I have.
with him, the bullpen is, what's so interesting about it is you had a lot of pitchers who had to go through a trial and error period for the first few months last season. And Karinchak had to prove that he could thrive without the sticky stuff. Trevor Stephan had to go from mop-up guy to a setup man. Hentges had to prove he could go from a failed starter to an elite reliever. Did anybody know who Aniel De Los Santos was this time last season? Nick Sandlin had some command issues and had to go to AAA. So there was a trial and error period really till July. And then from July on, they were the best bullpen in baseball by a mile. So you had this season, all those guys coming back to where, yes, bullpens are unpredictable year to year, but Tito knew who he could trust. So there was one bullpen opening with Hentges' injury. It's probably going to be 2. And the list of candidates to fill those spots, like I don't know that there's an obvious favorite. So it's going to be interesting to see how they fill those roles. And Hentges was the only lefty out there, so I think that's a big blow.
Yeah. And what's funny is you didn't even mention Eli Morgan, who was probably their second best reliever the first half of the season behind Clase, and he struggled in the second half when everybody else came around, and he's obviously got a good arm too. Speaking of the relievers, Zach, there's been a lot of talk about the pitch clock, right? All these baseball changes, I thought I would all hate them. I love them all. I like that the games are going to be faster. As a person who's got to be at every game, I'm sure you're going to enjoy faster games. How are especially Clase and Karinchak adjusting / going to adjust, especially Karinchak, who's obviously like a Al Habrowski, Mad Hungarian, crazy man on the field. Are you worried at all about him and some of those bullpen guys who take longer adjusting?
So I haven't seen Clase yet. He threw his first live bullpen today, so he hasn't been in a game. So that we'll have to keep an eye on. Karinchak hasn't had any issues. The only issue he had was he requested a new ball once, and they were supposed to reset the clock when he did it because he did it right away, and they didn't. He got charged with an automatic ball, and he shouldn't have been. But he's had no issues.
Okay.
He told the team's pitching group over the offseason, don't worry about me. I'll be fine. I think he's maybe not – he like bounces the baseball in his hand a bunch, and then he'd go to the hair, the rosin bag, all this stuff. I think he's just sort of limited the extracurriculars in between pitches, and he works quick, anyway. It was just the between pitch routine that he's going to
Right.
have to alter.
Zach, outside of driving the Will Brennan bus, I'm also on the Tristan McKenzie train, I guess you could call it. Is there
Because
any?
he's the only player that weighs less than Mike.
Probably. That's actually probably fact. Well, Steve, no, I weigh more than Stephen Kwan. Maybe. I don't know, but besides the point.
Yeah.
We had Chris Rose on, talked to the Guardians, and who do we have also from spring training? Mandy Bell. So that she thought that McKenzie could take that next step, be a legitimate Cy Young candidate heading in this season. Is there any chance that at the end of 2023 we're looking at Tristan McKenzie as the best pitcher on this Guardians roster?
Yeah, I think it's totally reasonable to make that prediction. I think he's got one of the best curveballs in the league. If you go look up his numbers, hitters have against that pitch, it's unfair. And what's amazing about him is, you think about what makes a pitcher great, and sometimes they need to find the right pitch mix, or they need to just get beat around a little bit and learn how to be effective. But for him, it's confidence. And in 2021, a light bulb went off in the second half, and part of it was respected players around the league like Miguel Cabrera and Salvador Perez told him, hey, you've got really good stuff. Like, you're impressive. So the results weren't always there, but I think you could see he was nibbling a lot that season, and he would get into a jam and wasn't sure how to get out of it. And next thing you know, the bases are loaded with walks, or he'd give up a big home run because he was falling behind in counts. And last season, he was the aggressor, and he'd go with that fastball curveball mix. He mixed in sliders, and I mean, it worked to perfection. I mean, it's unbelievable the growth he's made, considering he didn't pitch in 2019. 2020, he came up and debuted during a season where he really had no business pitching in the major leagues. And 2021, he took his lumps, and last season he was great. So it's been, there were hopes that he could be this pitcher, the top 50 prospect, but you never know if that light bulb is going to go off. And once it does, then you sort of reevaluate things and you start to wonder, okay, this guy proved he can be a really good pitcher. Can he be a Cy Young winner? Can he be a guy we want to sign to a long-term extension? He answered the durability questions by making 30 starts, throwing 191 innings. So, yeah, it's all there. He and Bieber, to me, are like 1A, 1B.
Yeah,
How
I
are
agree.
Bell and Zunino fitting in locker room wise?
Bell, well, quieter, I guess, because, Zunino's replacing Austin Hedges, who was, if he was still on the team, you'd probably hear him in the background right now. Bell's a quiet guy. I think he does a lot of reading. I think they're fitting in seamlessly because they're veterans, and I think they're two of the oldest, if not the two oldest guys on the team now. But they're guys who have been around and who can offer some leadership, some experience, and I think that helps, because even though these guys went through it all last season, this is the first time that they'll have expectations.
Zach, we got to let you go, but before we do, I'm sorry to interrupt, but before we do, I just wrap it all up with your win total. Folks are between 85 and 90. Is that where you're sitting right now with this club?
Yeah, I think the balanced schedules, and we're making a big deal out of it, and yes, it'll affect things a little, but I do think we're making too big of a deal of it. I'd say somewhere around 90 makes sense.
I'd take that. I think
Zach,
90 wins the division.
Do you want to talk attendance before you go, or should we avoid that?
Can we go attendance, payroll, special teams coaches? What do you want to talk about?
See you, Zach. Great job,
Thanks,
man. Have
Zach.
fun out there.
Thanks,
buddy.
Zach. I think that there's no line on McKenzie to win the Cy Young, which is.
I saw it was plus 3,000. I saw one.
Well, the ones I looked at, they had the favorites for every team. Obviously, Bieber was the favorite, but I agree with Zach, and I'm just going on stuff. I'm not talking about, I'm not even going to factor in the experience, because Bieber clearly is the more experienced pitcher, and he's been there, so he knows what it takes. But just the stuff, the swing and miss stuff that he has. He mentioned his curveball, and he also talked about every pitcher is holding a Rubik's Cube in their hand for the first 3 years, and what they're struggling with is pitch mix. When do I throw the fastball? When do I throw the curveball? He figured it out somewhere around July of last year. I was at the stadium. I talked about this. I was at the stadium for the White Sox game when he had like 16 strikeouts. Start before that, he had over 15. And what I realized in that start was he was beginning to mix his pitches like a veteran, knowing when to overpower guys with the fastball and when to mix it up with the curveball.
I thought the catchers was calling.
They are, but the pitcher drives the bus on that a lot more
Yeah.
than they think
Oh, yeah.
by how well they're throwing each pitch. And
Well,
the
he was
manager
pitching-
also looks at that, and the pitching coach does too.
And he was pitching with confidence, right?
That's the key.
Yeah.
He got to a point, he clearly was lacking confidence the first half of 21.
Yeah.
I always felt like in the back of his mind was, because he was a home run, he gave up a lot of home runs. I think that was always in the back of his mind. Pitching coaches will always tell you, you've got to take that out of your mind. It can't be living in the back of your mind. That's like a quarterback who's afraid to throw an interception.
Yep.
You start seeing ghosts start materializing. And with McKenzie, when he stopped worrying about giving up home runs, he's going to give up home runs. He just is. He's that kind of pitcher. But when he stops worrying about it, and he did last year, he was 11-11 last year with his sub-3 ERA.
Yeah.
He can easily be the ace of this staff for the next 5-10 years. And I think he can win a Cy Young.
It's like a shooter in basketball when you're not worried about missing anymore and you can just shoot the ball and let it
go.
fly.
Let it go.
You're
Hey,
confident.
we got a NASCAR report.
We do have a NASCAR report. Also, shout
Yeah.
out Phil Bowman, who gifted 6 memberships today, and Evan 419, who gifted 5. We got 18 new members
Bowman.
today.
Shout out Phil.
to
How are they doing that? They're just
I
buying.
have no idea YouTube works, but shout out to you guys. You're the best.
Shout out
Earl,
Phil.
The first day that
NASCAR
this
report.
has happened. We've been back here trying to figure it out, but a shout out to everybody who's
That's
gifted
incredible.
members. Anthony got a membership gifted to him. They just out here showing love.
They
and
gifted
using the
Anthony a
chest chat.
membership.
Well, Anthony probably has.
Anthony
one.
has all the inside access. Thank you for that, whoever did it. But
Well, Anthony, you should re-gift it to someone
yeah,
else.
yeah, Anthony, you got to re-gift it. Pass it on.
And he's like, listen, baby, I want to watch some bonus content when I'm at the house.
Anthony watches it every day. All right, Earl,
ahead,
NASCAR
Earl.
report. We got to get
Clock
it
Hour,
in.
man. It's brought to you as always by Call It Racing. Call It Racing is your Northeast Ohio NASCAR team. I've been waiting for this sponsor for so long.
I know you have. First of all, we need to tell everybody you are the NASCAR guy in Cleveland. There's nobody in town that knows more about NASCAR than you.
Yeah, I know.
Is that true?
Me and Ken Carmen
Yes.
had some. We have some back and forths all the time about who knows more. So what I'm going to do is every Friday, kind of give you a preview of what's coming up in NASCAR.
Right.
And tell you a little
Where
bit
are they
about
this
Call It
weekend?
Racing. They're in Las Vegas Motor Speedway this weekend.
Oh, okay. Good.
So Call It Racing, two different teams. He has an Xfinity Series team and a Cup Series team.
Explain that for those that don't know. Xfinity is the major leagues, right?
Xfinity is the minor league.
Oh, that's the minor
Cup
leagues.
is the team.
Cup.
And then
And
the
the
Cup
is
is
the
the major leagues.
Yep.
Okay. Now, that Xfinity team will race some Cup races, though, throughout the year.
Some of the drivers will.
Yeah, okay.
So this week he has actually a really, really special Xfinity driver driving one of his cars. Kyle Busch will be driving the number 10 car for Call It Racing.
Oh.
He's from Las Vegas, so this will be pretty cool.
How did they pull that off?
Article came out about a month ago. They came together for a deal for a couple races. I'll go back and give you some details on that.
Okay.
So the race Saturday, Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
Could win that.
The Ausco Uniforms 300. It'll be ran Saturday, March 4th, 2023.
Oval?
On Fox.
It's an oval, right?
It's an oval.
Yeah.
Mile
Aren't
and a
they
half
all?
track.
No.
No, they have some road courses, and
got road
AJ
courses.
Allmendinger is like a really good road course driver.
He actually won his
So
first race for Call It Racing at Indianapolis road course.
Yes, he did.
So who you picking to win the race there, Earl? Give us a prediction.
Well, I'm gonna go with one of our sponsors.
gotta be a
I'm
car.
gonna
Are
go
you
with
really?
Well,
I'm
you
gonna
can't
go-
pick
I'm
him
gonna
to
go
win
with AJ
every
Allmendinger.
race.
That's what you
know,
say.
but Kyle Busch is a big time driver.
You can't pick him to win
I'll
every
pick him
race.
to win every race.
It's
No.
an individual sport.
Allmendinger's winning every race now at the end
No,
of the
he's
season.
picking Kyle Busch.
Well, that's the
Kyle.
Xfinity. I'm going with the Cup Series. He can pick the minor leaguers. I'm picking the pros.
No, Kyle Busch is running in the big race.
No, he's running the minor
running
league.
the
Yeah,
big
he's
race,
not gonna
but
run the
running for
minors.
Kyle Busch
Holly
doesn't run
in the
minor
minors.
league races.
Oh, okay.
He's
so he does
retired.
both.
Kyle
Okay.
Busch retired. He's coming out of
Yeah.
retirement to run in the Xfinity.
Yeah,
race.
He's
see,
run.
If
He
you
is
would
racing in
listen,
the minor
if
league
you would
race.
listen to producer Earl,
How could I
open
listen?
Your ears. That's
How
the
could I
point.
listen? These guys are talking.
So who
over.
wins?
I really don't have a winner, honestly, for the Xfinity race. For the Cup Series race,
Yeah.
I would really go with one of the Busch brothers. Kyle
Yeah.
Busch comes to
Wait,
Las Vegas.
hold
and
on,
he
Earl. I
dominates.
got to cut you off. If you're going to be Mr. NASCAR, then you can't tell me you don't have a winner. You got to pick a winner. That's the deal.
He's got a
Let's
point.
go.
He does
Don't
have a
ride the
point.
fence here. We don't do fence riding.
Well, in
Let's pick a
fairness to
winner.
Earl, though, you really don't pick a winner of a
Earl,
NASCAR
pick a
race.
damn winner.
what do you mean you don't pick a winner?
don't.
You can
you
try,
bet
but
on who's going to
Here's
win?
what it's akin to: who's going to win a golf tournament.
Yeah,
Yeah,
John
so
Rahm,
pick a
that's
winner.
terrible.
Roy
Any given
McIlroy,
weekend,
Let's go.
Tiger Woods.
Make
Anybody
a
can win.
prediction. Let's go, Earl.
Anybody can win, right? Am I right, Earl?
Put it on the line.
Anybody could win.
I'm picking.
We don't want to hear that.
For our sponsorship for Call It Racing, I'm
Nah,
going with AJ Allmendinger.
You're the
Yeah,
man.
That's it.
That's a
what
great
we
pick.
doing.
I was thinking the same one, Earl. I'm
Where is
picking-
the race this weekend? What network?
Fox Network.
Very
so
good.
The Xfinity race is Saturday at 4:30. The Cup race, which is the Pennzoil 400, is Sunday at 3:30 p.m.
That's a good one.
Qualifying is later on today.
Ooh.
So we'll see where they start off at. But yeah, we're going to have some fun with quality racing while they're here with us.
Yes, we are.
I got a question for you. And Steve, get video number 2 ready. Who's going faster this weekend? Someone on the NASCAR track or what we're about to see when Steve pulls it up? We didn't play it off the top of the show. We got to play this before we run.
Video 2. Tyvus.
You guys recognize that voice?
I can tell by the yell it's Tyvus. Whoa. Grabbing him.
Look at that break.
Oh, he's got the steel glove on.
Oh, my gloves, look. Come on now, stop playing with me. Stop playing with me.
So in Tyvus' mind, he's the greatest repeller or zip line artist ever.
He sounded scared. He was screaming.
He did.
I would never.
Hey, Anthony, you got the picture? Can we take tag board real quick? I shouldn't produce it out here, but can we take tag board real quick?
It looked like Tyvus got a thong going right there.
Wait, has anybody ever done? No, you've never done it?
I have. Y'all ever seen a happier person than Tyvus right there?
No.
Whee!
That is one of the greatest things you can ever do outside of jumping out of an
Overtime
airplane.
next.
See you later.
Peace.
I ain't doing nothing.